Promise not to laugh, okay? 3 minutes after 10 is the time. Did you hear yesterday's programme about you, Les? No? I thought at least Keith might have nodded at that point. But we tried to work out why everybody had gone mad. You probably haven't learned or heard, if you rely upon people who told you Brexit would be brilliant. Boris Johnson was a stand-up guy. Donald Trump was a genius. Liz Truss was an economic guru. Austerity was a great idea. Benjamin Netanyahu was going to be good for the international reputation of Israel. I mean, I could go on. If you listen to those kind of people, you probably... And of course, that ULEZ was the end of civilization as we know it. If you listen to those kind of people, you probably don't know about the research published yesterday that found that the introduction of ULEZ was having a, quotes, stunning, end quotes, effect upon the regrowth or the growth of lungs in small children who had previously been damaged by pollution. So it seemed like a timely moment to reflect upon how mad everybody went in the run-up to the introduction of the extension of ULEZ. It was not, and you will allow me to say this, I think, it was not the most successful quest that we have ever been on together. Do you know why? Because we got perfectly sensible answers to the questions. We got answers that might have answered the question, what were the sort of misgivings about ULEZ, or what could have been handled better, or what might have explained why people ended up thinking things that weren't true, or were you a bit aggrieved by the fact that you had to pay money to replace your car? And you can answer yes to all of those questions, but they don't touch the sides of the question of why everybody went bonkers. And the reason why I asked you not to laugh was because as I sat down this morning, I saw a message from Nitsan which simply said, "Good morning, James. I haven't come across anyone that has told me what Meghan and Harry have actually done wrong." So I'm a little bit too close to suggesting that Meghan and Harry are the human embodiment of ULEZ. They are something about which a certain type of person was very, very successfully persuaded by a certain type of pundit to be furious. The kind of media that is best described as weapons permanently in search of a target. And of course, when those weapons find a target, they bring audience with them. They bring people with them, and the target comes under sustained and brutal attack, despite the fact that none of the people undertaking the attack can tell you what it is that the target has done to deserve the attack. It sounds like a bit of a stretch, doesn't it? The comparison of Harry and Meghan and ULEZ programmes. But you take my point. No one yesterday came close to explaining how people managed to go so mad about an anti-pollution measure. Literally nobody. I mean, we could perhaps explain why you went so mad about an anti-pollution measure introduced by, or not even introduced, extended by a brown-skinned Muslim thrice-elected mayor. Then you get slightly different answers to the question. But why did you go mad about an anti-pollution measure that we now know has had an incredibly positive impact upon the lungs of our actual children? What the hell are you going to say in answer to that? And I think Nitsan has a point. I don't think I've ever... And how many phone-ins have we done on this? I don't think we've ever really heard a powerful explanation of what it is that she is supposed to have done wrong. People use words like uppity, don't they, to describe Meghan Markle. I can't remember who that actually was, but someone with a public profile called her uppity. Not a word that I ever hear applied to men, and not a word I don't think I've ever heard applied to a white woman either. And people insist that they know more about her than I do, for example, which is technically impossible, given that we all rely upon the media for our so-called insights or knowledge of these people. And I probably spend more time immersed in the media than the average bear. What have they actually done wrong? If you are, either paying attention to the plight of this couple, or you are familiar with the things I routinely point out on the frankly quite rare occasions that we turn our attention to them, you'll know that a little later in this programme I'll share with you a direct comparison between two members of the royal family, Meghan and Kate, two sisters-in-law, behaving in almost identical conduct. I mean, I still, when I look at it, I dig it out, don't I, every couple of years, and every time I look at it, I think that can't be right. That can't be right. They're two individuals, two people who have married, two women who have married into the same family, engaging in identical or similar behaviour and prompting responses that are absolutely polar opposite. I'll just give you one example in case you're not quite sure what I'm talking about. Here is a story from the Daily Mail about Kate, about the now Princess of Wales. Not long to go. Pregnant Kate tenderly cradles her baby bump while wrapping up her royal duties ahead of maternity leave. And William confirms she's due any minute now. Is that lovely? Treacly voice. She's due any minute now. That's a lovely story. Pregnant Kate tenderly cradles her baby bump. OK. Fast forward less than a year to the pregnancy of her sister-in-law, Meghan Markle, as was, and the same organ reports on the same story, a woman touching her pregnancy bump, under the rather different headline, "Why can't Meghan Markle keep her hands off her bump? Experts tackle the question that has got the nation talking. Is it pride, vanity, acting, or a new age bonding technique?" Now, look me in the eye and tell me this country's not nuts. Or at least this country's treatment of these people is not nuts. This is not even a single syllable of exaggeration. Two women, members of the same family, touch the bump that they have developed while pregnant. One of them, not long to go, pregnant Kate tenderly cradles her baby bump while wrapping up her royal duties ahead of maternity leave. And William confirms she's due any moment now. Fast forward 10 months from March 2018 to January 2019. Why can't Meghan Markle keep her hands off her bump? Experts tackle the question that has got the nation talking. Is it pride, vanity, acting, or a new age bonding technique? And that is just one example of 20. Some of which I will probably share with you later in the programme, and some of which I'll probably forget to. But that is the country to which this couple are returning. And if I knew them, I would wonder why. Well, I mean, I don't need to know them to wonder why, but if I did know them, I would probably caution them not to be honest. We have the hounding of Professor Jason Arday very fresh in our memory, the glee with which that man was pursued by the same elements of the media that pursued Meghan Markle. In fact, I think I saw one columnist saying that Jason Arday reminds me of Meghan Markle, and you have to sit there and think, why? On what possible planet would that be a reasonable or a pertinent observation? So you would, as a friend, say, are you sure about this? I mean, it's going to be awful. And then you would, of course, reflect upon the fact they know a lot more about how awful it's going to be than you do. They will be even more familiar with the febrile atmosphere into which they will be inserting themselves and their children on their return to this country. And that's why, I mean, I suspect that we'll never know the full story. We might do. But the theory, if you wanted one from me, would simply be that while he was here in July, while they were all here in July, and when the King saw his grandchildren for the first time in 4 years, something shifted inside them. Because do you know what? Like you and like me, they are humans who are members of a family. It's mad, that, isn't it? It's sort of a little clip of Harry. It's a day for playing clips of Harry, apparently. So I've got a lovely little clip of Harry for you in which his basic normality is on full display. But, of course, he is simultaneously among the least normal people in the world. His life, his background, the context in which he was brought up is utterly, utterly abnormal. And lots of contexts are. It's just that most of them aren't on full display. You know, most of them are not in glorious Technicolor every time they stick their head out of a window. But that is something they know more about than we do. So I presume that the shifting of the sands is down to some sort of desire to be closer to home, to have the grandchildren growing up a little bit closer to the grandparents. I don't know. I'll never know. And that's not the phone-in. That's not the phone-in. The phone-in is, what should they do? Is it even possible that they could return to the days when they were more popular than William and Kate? They were just more natural. They were just more, before the guns of the British media parked upon their lawn, they were pretty much the dream ticket. You had a bona fide war hero and a beautiful actress. It was kind of Prince Rainier and Princess Grace territory. Of course, that was never going to overcome some of the racist objections to Meghan Markle. I still wonder which member of the royal family it was that wondered aloud how dark the baby's skin would be, but I suspect it's possibly one who isn't a member of the royal family anymore. But that extraordinary period in which they were taken to the hearts of a nation, because we're mugs, aren't we? Often, you and I. You can take someone to your heart, and then when the media starts its campaign and the media starts turning its guns on somebody, you can change your view. You can move without knowing why from liking someone to not liking someone in exactly the same way that you can be persuaded ULEZ was the end of civilization as we know it, despite the fact that all the people who understood it knew that it was going to have an entirely beneficial effect on, and I'll say it again, literally, our children's lungs. We can be persuaded to believe anything. Don't ask me. Ask Joseph Goebbels. It's just true. I don't know what they could do. He is on spectacular form when you see him in the environs of the Invictus Games or when you see him talking particularly about injured or distressed ex-service personnel. He's got this weird, and I say weird simply because it is out of the ordinary. They grow up, right, with this sense of duty, which you have to have. Some of them don't really have it. One thinks of Andrew. They don't really have a sense of having to give something back. And some of them, I think, don't really get it. They sort of see it almost as the dues that you pay in return for the privilege that you enjoy. And I think people who might ordinarily find my politics quite attractive are not necessarily going to chime with the next thing I'm about to say. I think that the late Queen, and possibly even more so King Charles, definitely even more so King Charles, actually have a very deep-rooted sense of duty. Do not laugh, all right? King Charles clearly ties himself in knots about things over which he feels he might possibly have some control. So he has spent his entire life trying to change things for the better, whether it is the environment, where he was an incredibly early adopter and has been proven right about many, many things, whether it's architecture, which was a little bit more controversial, whether it's the welfare of what we have to still incredibly and hilariously call his country. It's there. Listen, it might be accompanied by the fact that he's got someone who puts the toothpaste on his toothbrush every morning, and it might be accompanied by the fact that he bowls around London in a golden carriage with a whopping great crown on his head. It might be accompanied by all sorts of things that are ridiculous and yet at the same time, for many people, strangely moving. But he has a sense of proper duty. I think you can split the royals into the ones that resent it and the ones that respect it. I think both positions are equally comprehensible. Imagine being born into that world. It's so easy to resent it. Why can't I go down the pub with my mates more easily? Why can't I get off with a girl when I'm 16 without it ending up on the front page of The Sun? Why can't I do these things? And, of course, most of them will have both of these things fighting for prominence inside them. And I would have thought, historically, that the more baubles at the end of it, the easier it is to deal with the negatives. You're going to actually be king one day. But I don't even think that's fair. I think possibly that might add to the resentment. I don't really want to be king one day, but I am on rails. I can't possibly step out of this. But Harry, the reason why he has done so many of the things that he's done is because he feels that his status brings with it responsibilities. He's got to look after himself as well. He's got to look after his wife. He's got to look after his children. But he can never not be Prince Harry, even if we started calling him something else, unless his title was removed as a consequence of disgrace or as a consequence of a kind of low-level abdication. He can never not be Prince Harry. He can never not be the king's son. And I think he feels, I'm fairly certain that he feels, that involves a quid pro quo. The quid is the title, the life, the prominence, the status. Not so much the bells and whistles and the baubles, but the status. Somebody who has done nothing to achieve their fame. It's almost unique to the royals, that. You could probably say it about the children of celebrities, but they have a lot more choice. There'll be some celebrities whose children's names you don't even know, and there'll be some celebrities whose children's names you will never be able to forget in a month of Sundays. There's an element of choice in nepotism, in wanting to use your name to advance your own career. There's nothing wrong with that, you know. We'd all do it given the opportunity. But royals almost uniquely achieve status at birth. They achieve status and prominence and therefore influence at birth. Imagine being born influential. And listen, if you think I'm exaggerating, what would happen if it somehow became known what brand of baby wear the mother of a newly born prince was favouring? That brand of baby wear would sell out in moments. That's just low-level commercial interest, commercial influence. That is a baby that is barely born, that already has influence, that already has clout, that already has sway. And I've watched Harry quite closely over the years, partly because he's such an exemplar of how evil our right-wing media is, and partly because I'm British and I find the royal family fascinating. And I think the key to understanding him is understanding what he sees as the inviolable relationship between the gifts of influence and what you do with them. I really do. I mean, I might sound a little bit... I don't know, naive. Might sound as if I'm angling for a gong in the event of him ever ending up on the throne, which, let's face it, is impossible. But I'm not. I'm just trying to work out what I see in front of me. And I see a man born with influence who feels a deep sense of responsibility to using that influence for good. Did anyone else just think of Star Wars? It's like the Force. The Force is strong within him. And he wants to use it for good. And he doesn't get everything right, and he doesn't always do himself any favours. But I don't know. I think somewhere behind the decision to come back to Britain will be the belief that he can do more good here than he can where he currently is in California. Shall we have a phone in, or would you like me to carry on until 11 o'clock? Because as you've probably gathered, I am perfectly capable of doing so. I would rather have a phone in this morning, but I'm going to leave that decision up to you, because if you want to have a phone in, you have to ring me. If you don't want to have a phone in, don't ring me. What would you like them to do when they move back to Britain? This supremely scrutinised couple, this heinously abused family, this extraordinarily influential unit. What would you like them to do? There are two questions. What do you think they should do? And what would you like them to do? It might be the same question. It might be the same question, but I'd like you to have a crack at one or both. And the number you need to do that is 0345 6060 973. It's 21 minutes after 10. You're listening to James O'Brien on LBC, and the question, for once, is pretty clear.
James O'Brien on LBC.
3 minutes after 10 is the time. It's one of those mornings where I have no way of knowing how far into your cheek your tongue is inserted when you get in touch with me via text, but I hope I can tell when you talk to me. Ash, for example, suggests that Meghan will be on Loose Women soon. Nikki writes rather more seriously, why would Harry bring his family back to a country where such vicious hatred has been whipped up against them simply for daring to leave and speak a few home truths? The relentless vitriol from sections of the press, certain broadcasters, and the endless parade of so-called royal experts has been utterly revolting and enormously profitable for those peddling it. Who could forget Jeremy Clarkson's grotesque fantasy of parading Meghan through the streets while crowds... I think she was naked as well in that fantasy, Nicky, pelted her with excrement. That is what they're coming back to, but let's not patronise them. They know that better than we do. And there it is. I'd say welcome back and brace yourself for the righteous right being a tad indignant. And then perhaps we should add to the question, why? Just like you, Les, how did they end up being so universally attacked when it's very hard to work out what it is they're supposed to have done wrong? Lorraine is in Stratford. Lorraine, what do you reckon?
Thank you for taking my call. I feel really strongly about this. I'm Caribbean. Yes. I'm born and bred in England. I consider myself English. And watching Harry and his brother grow up, they went through a lot.
They certainly did.
For me, it was a case of understanding why he wanted to leave with his family in the first place, given that there was an initial plan. And I draw it back to the initial plan. When the Queen was alive, they had an initial plan, which was to work more closely on the Commonwealth matters because of understandings that Meghan actually would have brought to the table as well. When they got married, I thought that it was a huge plus for the royal family to actually have someone of
I think we forget that,
different heritage, I think that's totally been forgotten.
Yeah, the reaction was largely, we're a decent country, we're a decent people until we get poison poured into our ears.
Correct. And I felt the media did that.
For
and
sure.
I feel that they... What we didn't know at the time was Meghan was going through a lot, and we didn't know why. And then all of a sudden, they wanted to step back. Now, from what I recall and what I remember, that was because she lost a child, which is unimaginable. But then if you bring on the onslaught afterwards of the case of they just wanted to step back. They never said they wanted to leave. And if you look at the Queen Mother's, if you look at the Queen's speech, she said it was for a year, and then it would be reviewed. And that's been totally forgotten, overridden by the media. So I felt like the public opinion was strongly against them because they wanted to step back. But that was for mental health reasons.
I think that's chicken and egg. I think that the vitriol was in place long before that happened. I mean, some of the stuff I'm reading, 2018, 2019, when Kate tenderly cradles her baby bump, why can't Meghan Markle keep her hands off her bump? Can you explain that? I mean, what on earth is going on there? How did we not notice more at the time?
I agree, all of that. And as a black woman in this country, I saw that, and many people did see that, although there were still many people that felt the opposite, and I accept that. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. But I do think the gravy train went, and everybody jumped on the bandwagon and actually forgot what she was going through, what they were going through as a family in the beginning.
Do you think we'll ever be able to get a proper answer to the question of what caused the avalanche of unpleasantness?
No, because I don't think, personally, that what Harry calls the institution and what different people in the royal households will be honest about it. I honestly don't think we'll get to the truth because of that lack of honesty. For whatever reason, it might be because they don't want to, it might be that they can't. I don't think we'll get to the truth. I do think Harry is a person of integrity and does tell the truth, albeit people won't accept it because they think he's influenced a lot more by Meghan. But again,
but that's misogynistic, isn't it? Or exactly. I don't know if that's the right word, but the idea that a woman, any man who wants to get in touch with his own trauma or his own past or understands vulnerability. This is a man that we have all watched tear off a microphone in front of a television camera and rush towards trouble when an alarm went off at Camp Bastion in Afghanistan. And the idea that some armchair critic will sit there saying, oh, he's under the thumb, he's henpecked, it would be hilarious if it wasn't so widely held and, of course, endorsed by so many corners of our media. It is absolutely pathetic. And it's a way, I think, of using a man to attack a woman, isn't it? It's not really an attack on Harry when they say that he's unduly influenced by his wife. They're saying, look at that uppity woman over there. Look at that uppity woman of colour. How dare she have agency? How dare she be an equal partner in a marriage with one of our princes? Who does she think she is?
Correct. And I agree with every part of that. Bring it back to the current day now. Why would they want to come back?
Yeah, why?
Things are different, and I do believe that Harry does want to rebuild things. And
the king is getting on a bit, and he's not been well. I lost my dad in 2012. I'd cross continents for another day, for another year, for another month with him, and maybe it is as simple as that. We shouldn't ever know the real answer, or we may never know the real answer to that question, but we can, I think, and as you've just done rather nicely, we can think out loud about what would be the best way, the best role for them when they come back here, because it's tricky. And I think, personally, although Lorraine and I agree that some of these questions are never going to have completely definitive answers, which reminds me, Mystery Hour, later today from 12, it's not a coincidence it's not a coincidence that they go from being absolute darlings to being attacked in a way that absolutely insulated and protected his brother and his wife from unwelcome or unpleasant scrutiny. His theory, and he's explained this, is that they were almost offered up as a sacrifice. You've got to protect my wife from these attacks. And the either explicit or implicit response was, well, yeah, but if we do that, they're going to go after someone else. So the royal family proper, or the main tier, top tier royal family, get a bit of a break from media scrutiny or media attacks. And as a reward or as a consequence or as a price for that, they do not protect Meghan Markle from media intrusion and media attention with anything like the alacrity or the enthusiasm that they would have protected her sister-in-law. And I mean, the examples, I've given you one about the pregnancy bump. It moved on to the columnists the next day. The news stories moved on to the columnists. So when the columnists got hold of the Kate Middleton story, you get bumping along nicely. The Duchess was seen placing a protective hand on her tummy as she exited the event. Whereas when the columnists got hold of Meghan Markle, personally, I find the cradling a bit like those signs in the back of cars, baby on board, virtue signalling, as though the rest of us Baron Harridans deserve to burn alive in our cars. How do you go from a woman cradling her pregnancy bump to people burning alive in their cars unless you are objectively mad? You have been driven mad by something. You've been driven mad by Meghan Markle. And that's the third question on the board this morning. What on earth happened? Why? How did they end up prompting these reservoirs of hatred and vitriol? And remember, you can't even answer that question by saying, well, they were very arrogant, or they were very this, or they were very that. Reservoirs of unbearable vitriol for the crime of cradling a baby bump. Here's Dominic Ellis with your headlines.
James O'Brien on LBC.
34 is the time. I think of all the stories that... Because I told you yesterday, I do occasionally have little wobbles where I think, am I exaggerating this? I don't quite go full David Mitchell and find myself thinking, are we the baddies here? When it comes to media coverage of almost everything in this country. I think, do you have a bit of a bee in your bonnet about the right-wing media? Is it always... And then you listen to some people talking about things or indeed not talking about things. Look at the ULEZ story, which everybody was persuading or trying to persuade their listeners and readers and viewers was the end of civilization as we know it, and they had absolutely nothing to say about the fact that it has been shown to have had an extraordinary effect on children's lungs. Down with that sort of thing. I think probably more than anything, because the juxtapositions are so stark, this roundup that BuzzFeed did many years ago of how almost identical, actually often identical behaviours by two people in the same family were reported in such completely different ways. And I've done this before. I've read through them before. And every single time I return to it, I find myself thinking, wow, how do we not notice this while it's going on? And then I remember I remember two things. I remember that some people do notice this. I'm pretty sure Harry and Meghan noticed it. And then I remember that's why it's called gaslighting. That's why it's called gaslighting. I think it comes from a play, doesn't it, written in the 30s when a man wanted to send his own wife mad. And so he would slowly turn down the gas lamps in their apartment. And then when she questioned whether the gas lamps had been turned down, he would insist that they hadn't, even though, of course, he knew that they had because he'd done it himself. And so you just begin to sow these seeds of doubt in someone's mind about their own sanity. And you end up making them believe things that are demonstrably untrue. That is how you gaslight a population. I'll give you another example. This is from 2017, I think, versus 2019. Same newspaper again. The first one was the Mail. This is the Express. Kate's morning sickness cure? ? Prince William gifted with an avocado for pregnant Duchess. It's a lovely story about a member of the public being at a royal event and giving Prince William an avocado. Have you noticed I've stopped saying avocado pear? Do you know why I've stopped saying avocado pear? Because I was the only person left in Britain who said avocado pear, and I didn't like the way that made me stand out. So, and someone said, "Hey, this is really good for morning sickness." It's been reported that Kate has morning sickness. This is an avocado. It's really good for morning sickness. Here you go. 2 years later, there is another story about a member of this family and an avocado. Don't say pear. Literally, that's it. So that's the first story about a member of this family and an avocado. Here's another story about a member of this family and an avocado. Are you ready for it? Meghan Markle's beloved avocado linked to human rights abuse and drought, millennial shame. You know, right? If you're not familiar with this, if you haven't seen this stuff before, you are probably reeling at this because we didn't notice it, or it doesn't get pointed out, or we didn't register it properly at the time because we were being gaslit. Some of us resisted it. Some of us didn't fall for the idea that she's evil personified because of avocados or because she cradles her baby bump. And some people spotted it, including the journalist that put this together for BuzzFeed. But it's the same story. And again, let's have a look at the body of the articles. Ready? Prince William was given one of the green fruit wrapped up in a bow by a little boy whose mother is suffering during her pregnancy too. He said he'd take it to Kate and see what happens and say good luck for the boy's mummy. Oh, that's nice. Fast forward from September 2017 to January 2019. The pregnant Duchess of Sussex and so-called avocado on toast whisperer is wolfing down a fruit linked to water shortages, illegal deforestation and all-round general environmental devastation. I think we probably should have gone back to the question of what on earth prompted this extraordinary tirade, this extraordinary avalanche of hatred. But I'm not. I'm asking what you think they can possibly do when they come back to this country to, I don't know, challenge, overturn, reverse this hideousness, this absolutely shameful hideousness regarding the way that they've been treated. 10:39 is the time. What can they do? Because a few people have pointed out that the trip to Australia, when they absolutely smashed it, looks from the outside like the beginning of the end. This is from Adrian. It all began when they visited Australia. They were very popular and therefore couldn't be allowed to overshadow William and Kate. Aid in Northampton suggests that the very establishment ordered the attacks. I don't know about that, but there would have been profound discomfort about the idea of the spare being more popular than the heir. Helen is in Sevenoaks. Helen, what would you like to say?
Hello, James. I'm just so delighted to speak to you because ever since lockdown, you saw me through lockdown.
Well, thank you.
I've got to get this in, sorry.
No, please.
And
fill your boots. I love it.
You're just fantastic.
Oh, stop.
And,
Don't stop.
Yeah.
Don't stop. Oh, stop, Helen. Don't stop.
Keep me sane.
Thank you. Well, there'll be some people wondering whether you could possibly be sane after that vote of confidence. But go on, what made you pick up the phone today?
Well, all along, since Meghan got all that crap, nastiness, I've just felt that it was so unjust and horrible, and then, it just continues. And
where do you think it comes from?
The press.
No, but
they just want
so the
they
people
want to whisk up hatred and make money. And he was he's just such a lovely guy.
I've always thought that. I mean, neither of us know him, but I mean, when you sort of see him doing his thing, and the bit
he's
I always,
genuine.
Yeah, I think so. The bit I always found maddest is what do you need to be to be guaranteed the respect and affection, the admiration and affection of the British public? What do you need to be? What are the biggest possible head starts you could have? Well, no, I mean, on paper, before this all happened, I just said a member of the royal family, a military hero, someone who's comfortable in their own skin, funny, doing work for others, a love affair, a fairy tale romance. He's got the flipping lot. And here we are, queuing up to attack him.
I know. His grandmother had it all, and his father. I met his father at the Palace actually, because I sang in an opera that was put on there for a special occasion, and he was absolutely charming and lovely too.
I think there's, and obviously his brother wasn't, so it's not,
no,
or isn't.
Him.
It's not a guarantee by any stretch of the imagination. But I still, and I do this for a living, as you know. I can't ever get to the source. It's a bit odd to compare it to you, Les, but I don't think I will ever. I guess you either feel it or you don't. I will never fully understand the levels of vitriol displayed by members of the media and then parroted and swallowed wholesale by members of the public.
It's just making money, I think, and they do anything. Some lowlifes they do anything. And I thought you backed that up so beautifully.
Doesn't matter, though, does it, to the people that we're talking about? I wonder what the crossover is. I wonder what the Venn diagram is between people who were persuaded that ULEZ was the end of civilization as we know it and people who've been persuaded that Meghan Markle is some sort of enemy of the crown or enemy of the country. Enemy of the state is the phrase. Helen, thank you. And thank you for your lovely words as well. I've got others, and these are the single most illustrative examples of not just how appallingly treated Meghan in particular was, but of course, if you insult someone's wife, you insult and hurt them, and of course their children, but also how absolutely insane almost all of our media is. The way that they can write about two people from the same family doing almost exactly the same thing, and getting treated in completely different circumstances. If you're rolling your eyes at Helen and I talking about what a nice chap he seems to be, then just have a little listen to this, because this is not when he's on guard or on duty. I was really jealous when they did this. A lot of you are suggesting we should get him on Full Disclosure, which makes you a bit like the management at LBC. I have to tell you this, because obviously we interview an awful lot of people on Full Disclosure. The only criteria for involvement or inclusion is somebody I'd really like to sit down for an hour with. And almost 99.9% of the time that has been borne out. I've really enjoyed the hour that I've sat down with the guests on Full Disclosure. But every now and then one of the top brass will wander by and say, have you thought about getting the Pope on Full Disclosure? And I'll go, oh yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, cheers. Can I help, are you, with that? I think maybe it hasn't occurred to us that one. Have you thought about getting David Beckham on? Oh, thanks, boss. Yeah, nice one. Nice one. And so someone will wander past in the next couple of days after this has been in the news, and they'll go, hey, here's an idea. Why don't we try and get Prince Harry on Full? Oh, wow, no wonder you're in management and I'm just a lowly galley slave rowing away in the bowels of the boat. Let's try. Eleanor, did you? And Eleanor will roll her eyes at me going, yeah, thanks for that. Thanks, boss. Great idea. We'll try and get Prince Harry. We'll try and get one of the most scrutinised and interesting people in public discourse on Full Disclosure, shall we? But anyway, he didn't come on Full Disclosure. He went on Joe Flipping Marler's podcast instead, and I'll play you a little bit of it after this, because it does display the warmth and humanity that I think is blimmin' obvious. And yet, of course, some people don't see the warmth and the humanity. They see people burning in cars and avocados turning into Arkwright from Open All Hours. Avocados causing famine and flood. I'll play you a little bit of that after this.
James O'Brien on LBC.
Hey, you thought the comparison with ULEZ was stretching it a bit. How about this? So William and Kate never really look like they're having a good time, even if they are, and I hope they are, because you wouldn't wish unhappiness on many people. Harry and Meghan always look like they're having a good time. So do you know who I'm thinking of now? William as Keir Starmer, Harry as Andy Burnham. So it's a good job that we don't have like armies anymore. It's a good job that Harry can't stick his standard up on Turnham Green and then muster all of his supporters in the nobility to bring their own retinues and march upon SW1. But there you go. Tell me that's not true. Tell me that's not true. William's a bit of a Starmer and Harry's a bit of a Burnham at the moment, and goodness knows where the Burnham approval or optimism barometer is going to go in the coming days. So anyway, as Kieran in North Norfolk points out, there are podcasts he'll go on. I bet you, James, he writes, that Emily Maitlis could get Prince Harry on her show. I bet you're right. Also, the full weight of global would be behind those attempts, whereas me, I'd just be phoning up someone who met him once and saying, any chance you could ask Harry if he'd come on my podcast? Would that be okay? Yeah. Have you ever met him? No. All right. Do you know anyone who has? No. All right. It reminds me of my days as a newspaper journalist. Maitlis wants Harry on her podcast. That's it. Everyone in the building would be on the case. They'd be chasing him down like a fox in the days of yore, like hunting. But Joe Marler got him as well. And this is lovely. This is just really, really human. And I don't know that this is a side of him that many people actually want you to see. Right, it's not exactly Plato's Symposium, but there is somebody having fun in a way that I don't know we've ever seen his brother having fun. And listen, this is just one person speculating with absolutely no evidence whatsoever except the evidence I'm sharing with you. That's part of the problem. That's part of the problem. Fairy tale romance, fun-loving, nearly said criminal then, fun, and that is the thing that gets held up. That's the Andy Burnham, isn't it, to the Keir Starmer. And that's why they didn't like it. Possibly. That's why they allowed the abuse to go on, because you can make a call. I don't know how much influence you can exert on His Majesty's media if you're actually His Majesty, but Harry's view is very much they could have done a hell of a lot more to protect her from the sort of stuff I've been sharing with you today. Most obviously, I think that juxtaposition of headlines, which is just extraordinary. John's in Ilford. John, what do you reckon?
Oh, hello, yes.
Hello, John.
Well, first I want to say, I'm not being political here, I'm not really a royalist.
I'm not really either, but I'm not anti-royalist either.
No,
I'm just an ordinary Joe. It's extraordinary how many people think we shouldn't be talking about it at all because they find it all very boring, but it's too late now. Well, we're in, John. We're here. It's nearly 11 o'clock.
These two young people, and they got married and they were going to have a baby. Now, there was a person in that family, quite a senior person who is not around anymore, who referred to a certain nation as slit-eyed. Now, if
no prizes at all for remembering who that was, not to defend it in any way, shape, or form, but it was a different age, wasn't it, John?
Yeah, but look, once said, once a pen, once written, moves on. Is that
true?
Right?
I don't know. Yeah, that'll do. Let's write that one down. Stick it on a T-shirt, Keith. Carry on, John.
So, I reckon that she might have been a little bit wary at hearing this and knowing this. You know, they are. And, you know, you imagine, now you've got two girls, haven't you? You imagine taking them to school one day and one of them has a slight imperfection, not serious, and somebody makes a remark about it. You are going to be really upset about that.
Yeah.
And so is your wife, because you don't want that mentioned. You don't want that looked at.
You mean, I know you're not suggesting that. I know for a fact that you're not suggesting ethnicity is an imperfection, but you're just talking about protecting your children.
No, but I'm just talking about how people see people.
Yes, I know
and seeing an imperfection is one way, and I should know because I suffered that myself. But the fact is, this wasn't an imperfection. It's that little boy or girl was going to be of a different colour and or slightly brown, and probably.
And someone in the family, Andrew, probably. Someone in the family made a comment about, I have no idea whether it was Andrew or not. The poor man has suffered enough. They decided that they didn't want the kids in that environment. I suppose now, if that ludicrous...
Is that a fact? I didn't know.
Yeah. She said that one of them had said, "What colour is it? How dark is it actually going to be?" And you know, there was great gnashing of teeth and clutching of pearls at the time. Well, I think it's terrible, but you can do a phone in on it, and loads of white people will ring up and tell you that that's absolutely perfectly acceptable to want to know exactly how dark.
Well, it would be acceptable if there was, you know,
no racism
if there
in the
were
world.
if there were more coloured people in the royal family, then it wouldn't matter.
And that was the great hope, wasn't it? Again, you know, for many people, even the word that you just used is very much of an age, of an era. But as we've already said, that is the way the world turns. Things move on. People of colour is the phrase that I grew up using, and you didn't. Here's another example, John. Carol wins Granny War. Duke and Duchess of Cambridge will spend second private Christmas with the Middleton family rather than joining the Queen at Sandringham. Yeah, that's all right, isn't it? Because who here hasn't had a little bit of a battle over where we're going to go for Christmas? Is it our turn or is it the in-laws? Where are we going to go? Carol wins Granny War. Duke and Duchess of Cambridge will spend second private Christmas with the Middleton family rather than joining the Queen at Sandringham. Same family, same year, I think. That's quite extraordinary. I hadn't even clocked that. No, it's not. It's 3 years apart. 3 years later. Doesn't the Queen deserve better than this baffling festive absence? Richard Kay examines the impact of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's decision not to spend Christmas with the royal family. Listen, the hour's almost up. I've only given you 3. There's 20. There's 20 in this BuzzFeed article. I think they opened with the strongest examples, but whether it is the baby bump, the avocado, or the Christmas arrangements, isn't it absolutely incredible? It's absolutely incredible that two people from the same family doing the same thing, touching a baby bump, enjoying an avocado, or arguing over which side of the family you're going to go to for Christmas, can end up being treated in such, I would say, violently different ways by the media. Again, Kate and Wills Inc., Duke and Duchess secretly set up companies to protect their brand, just like the Beckhams. Oh, that's nice. They're just like the Beckhams, aren't they? Same story, same family, same newspaper. A right royal cash-in. How Prince Harry and Meghan Markle trademarked over 100 items from hoodies to socks 6 months before split with monarchy, with new empire worth up to £400 million. What do you think, John, they should do when they get here? Well, he's gone. He's got the radio back on. 10:57 is the time. That was a bit unfair. I think he thought that we had dispensed with his services. It's coming up to 10:58. You're listening to James O'Brien on LBC. The Mystery Hour on the way at 12. The conversation in the next hour will turn our attention to GCSEs and some sort of gender imbalance that I'm keen to get to the bottom of. But a quick word before that on the story, as we stay with our critique of right-wing media, that dominates the front of the Daily Mail today. Asylum seekers being issued with guidance on criminality, domestic abuse, rape, sex with children is illegal. The country that we live in, you and I, only outlawed the spousal rape. It only became a crime to rape your spouse in this country in 1991. Did you know that? Absolutely extraordinary. But I think the thing here is that you should welcome this pamphlet, but recognise that certain members of the media will use it to try to tar all asylum seekers with the same brush. And, of course, they'll use it to try to terrorise people. Asylum seekers are being told men and women are equal and that domestic abuse and sex with children is illegal in Home Office guidance on how to behave in Britain, is how the Times puts it, which is at least responsible. Ministers forced to tell asylum seekers don't rape women is what's on the front page of the Daily Mail. And if you're uncomfortable with it, you probably need to know about men like this. So there's a bloke that I saw an interview with the other day who described himself as absolutely a misogynist. He said, I'm a realist, and when you're a realist, you're sexist. There's no way you can be rooted in reality and not be sexist. He said that women were intrinsically lazy. He said there was no such thing as an independent female. He also talked about, and in fact the BBC, who were conducting the investigation, showed a text that he'd sent to one woman saying, I love raping you. He's claimed, for example, that women should bear responsibility for being sexually assaulted and worse, and currently stands accused of all sorts of crimes. So this is why you need pamphlet. What? Oh, sorry. That's not an asylum seeker. That's Andrew Tate, described by Nigel Farage as a very important voice for young men in this country. I don't know how you can conduct a conversation about this pamphlet without acknowledging what Andrew Tate has done to generations of young men in this country, but apparently it's possible. It's 11 o'clock.
James O'Brien on LBC.
It is 3 minutes after 11 and you are listening to James O'Brien on LBC. Apropos nothing in particular, although probably relevant to the last thing I said to you, I'd urge you to have a little look at some research that's been undertaken at King's College London into, because I don't think this is a mystery, sadly. I think we could probably name the people responsible for this. The public in England and Wales being completely wrong about how many foreign national offenders there are. And if we were to return to the area of sexual offences, then it was roughly double, with respondents believing that foreigners committed about 30% of all sexual offences in this country, when the real figure is 15%. Inexcusable and far too high, don't get me wrong, but the really inexcusable figure is 100%, which would encompass all sexual offences committed by all people. Professor Bobby Duffy at King says there are two buckets of explanations for our misperceptions: how we think and what we're told. So, number one, the queue for the ghost train will always be longer than the queue for the speak your weight machine. And, of course, number two, lots of people pouring poison into your ears about foreigners in general and asylum seekers in particular. Nigel Farage, who, of course, thinks that Andrew Tate is an important voice for young men, has a role here, probably because Reform voters' perceptions were the most wrong. There's a phrase you can apply to any story under the sun, quite possibly. Reform voters' perceptions were the most wrong. They believe that 50% of all sexual offences in this country were committed by foreign nationals. I wonder why, eh? Anyway, front page of the Mail today, talking about asylum seekers and sexual offences. 4 minutes after 11 is the time. I got a funny feeling that I haven't talked about stuff like this because I was too close to the story. So when I started at LBC, I didn't have any children. And I remember listening to Nick, whose children are older than mine, when exam season came round and I was planning to do, for example, aren't they much easier these days than they were when I were a lad? Which is a knee-jerk, absolutely stone-cold textbook radio phone-in to have on the days that the results come out. I don't really remember how you would conduct it. Do you? Yeah, of course I do. You could literally do. What sort of questions did you have to answer when you did maths O-level and then compare them to what you need to know to get a 9 in a maths chip? But what an awful thing to do. I'm sure I've learnt many, many, many other things from Nick Ferrari over the years. But the first thing I learned was don't do stuff like that. I mean, maybe don't ever do it, but certainly don't do it on results day. Don't come on air and start poo-pooing the results that these kids have worked for over the course of the last couple of years. And that explained why I stopped doing it before I had children, or before I had children of exam age. And then I stopped talking about it altogether, really, because I had a dog in the race. I had skin in the game. We've just got over the final hurdle. My youngest has now completed her A-levels happily and successfully. So I no longer feel disloyal almost by having conversations about exams. Not that there'd be anything disloyal about the question that I want to ask you today. But I've never really got my head around the boy-girl element of it. I've never really got my head around the fact that in an almost entirely co-educational country where we generally accept that girls benefit from being taught alone while boys benefit from having girls in their classes. That is a conversation we've had over the years. But this is an almost entirely co-educational education system, and girls have always done better at GCSE. I really like questions like this because there must be answers. The thing about trends is that if you track them properly, you can find movements that must have explanations. And I've been careful on this so far to avoid looking at what the explanations are, because the experts are speculating. I don't think this is a science in the sense that you can add 2 and 2 together and come up with 4, or put, I don't know, copper sulfate in copper sulfate solution through a piece of filter paper and get copper sulfate solution coming out the bottom. I don't know why this would be. And there are 2 or 3 different moving parts this morning as the GCSE results are published. Congratulations to everybody who has got what they wanted or more, and commiserations to you if you haven't. And I will be, for a moment, the old bloke who says, don't worry. Don't worry, it is not the end of the world. There are things that you can do, and some of the doors that you think have closed to you may not even be doors that you'll look back on and wish you could have gone through. I speak as someone who did all right in these exams but managed to fail his first year at university. And just about old enough and mature enough now not to smile while I say that at the memory of what I was doing instead. So you can stumble and you can fall in your educational career, but you are never out of it as you think you might be on mornings like this if things haven't gone as well as you hoped. So, girls are falling. Girls are still ahead of boys on GCSEs, but their lead over the top GCSE grades has narrowed to the smallest on record. At A-level, boys have widened the gap over girls. So on both of these metrics, GCSE and A-level, the boys are rising and the girls are falling. And I just want you to tell me why. 0345 60 60973. The numbers are not enormous, but the trends are now well established. Boys this year achieved more top grades, or more boys achieved top grades than at any time except during the pandemic when everything went a little bit doolally. But the idea that girls always have and always will do better than boys in exams is over. When you get to A-level, it's not even true now. And when you're looking at GCSEs, the direction of traffic for a long time, since 2019, has been against what we traditionally and historically expect. So, why? Now, you're on holiday at the moment, aren't you, teachers? So you can ring in and tell me. This could be good news, right? It could be that our system was somehow skewed against boys. It could have been that boys were not being properly accommodated, that perhaps diagnoses of neurodiversity, conditions like ADHD, have helped boys more than they have helped girls, because the incidence of the conditions is higher among boys. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. There could be a million different reasons why this has happened. I don't know whether girls suffered more as a consequence of lockdowns, whether the impact on their mental health or the negatives of social media land differently with girls than they do with boys. As we touched on at the end of the last hour, boys who've been corrupted by social media have been seduced into misogyny and sexual violence and all of the other things that Andrew Tate represents and Nigel Farage thinks is an important voice for young men in this country. But girls have had an altogether different thing. They haven't really been encouraged to be nastier. They've been encouraged perhaps to be more frightened, to be more scared. Would that, do you think, have an impact? There are, as often is the case on this programme, two ways into this. You can look at the young people in your life, whoever they may be, and tell me why you think boys are getting better at exams and girls are getting worse. 0345 6060 973. Listen, I've got an E in my AO level statistics, so I may have already misrepresented the statistics here. I mean, the gaps are getting smaller, and therefore you could portray it as girls still doing really well and boys catching up. But that is also interesting. Why are the grades of boys going up much faster than the grades of girls? What is it about our education system, which we often see as a little bit too feminine? I don't personally, but I've heard an awful lot of people opine upon the paucity of male teachers in primary schools, for example, and the lack of male role models and the feminisation, therefore, of the education system. I never really bought it myself, but I've certainly listened to it a lot, and this would appear to offer proof to the contrary. This would certainly offer evidence that cannot possibly be true. So boys, on the one hand, doing better. Girls, on the other hand, not necessarily doing worse, but possibly staying the same. Boys are improving more than girls in the British education system. And I can't, apart from the suggestions that I've made to you already, I want you to tell me why. It's 13 after 11. The number you need, as ever, is 0345 6060 973. And as I say, either look at the young people you know and try and extrapolate an answer to these questions from your observations of them, or do what I do, because I don't have sons, obviously. And, well, not obviously, you might have tuned into this radio programme for the very first time today. It's obvious to me that I don't have sons, because there aren't any there when I go home after the show. It's not necessarily obvious to you, but I can't make a comparison in the context of my own household. Maybe you can. But for the rest of us, you step back from this and you look at an upward gradient for boys, and it is either steeper than the one for girls, or the one for girls is level or downward. It kind of flies in the face with most of the things we've been told about education in this country for the last 20 years. So what is actually going on? Why are boys catching up with girls? 0345 6060 973 is the number that you need. I'm experimenting at the moment. I don't know whether you've noticed. It was Keith's idea. I think it's working. I'm not looking at texts and WhatsApps until I get to the break. And then I select my favourites and tee them up to share with you a little bit later in the programme. But I am, however, about to embark upon a very exciting new feature on the show. I'm going to do Missing Word Round Deluxe Edition. This is the Missing Word Round Deluxe Edition. It's not in a tin, no, Keith. So there's a missing word round, but when we do the reveal, when we reveal what the missing word is, we will then play some audio. So this is the Missing Word Round Deluxe Edition. I'm not going to do that until you've called me about the boy-girl question regarding GCSEs and A-levels. So they've already overtaken girls on it. So what happens there as well? What happens from GCSE to A-level? Why are boys overtaking girls at A? Why have boys overtaken girls at A-level while they've been lagging behind them forever at GCSE level? What happens in sixth form that gives boys a boost? 0345 6060 is the number you need. But here is the Missing Word Round Deluxe Edition, Episode 1. Are you ready? Are you ready? OK. Man calls 999 after buying blank by mistake. Man calls 999 after buying blank by mistake. We'll do the reveal on that and we'll play some hilarious audio shortly. But before any of that, I need you to tell me why boys are catching girls up in our education system, and why, if you want to get really technical, they actually now have overtaken them in sixth form. So surging ahead is the word that one newspaper used to describe male students overtaking female students for the second consecutive year. What's happened? What is happening and what has happened? 0345 6060 It's 11:16.
James O'Brien on LBC.
It is 11:17. Don't ring in on missing word rounds. Honestly, you'll just clog up my switchboard. And you can text in, of course, but I'll only have a look during the break. That's why I saw Tess's. The missing word is either gun or tiger, says Tess. No, it's not. What is it? We'll find out shortly. But the question on boys and girls, listen, there's going to be a lot going on here, and it's going to have a lot to do with something that's changing in our society, for good or for ill. I don't know whether this is good news or bad news. If you cast it as boys catching up with girls while girls continue to do brilliantly, then it's good news. If you cast it as boys overtaking girls, which is what's happened at A-level already, and catching up with them rapidly at GCSE, that's probably bad news, isn't it? I mean, in an ideal world, we'd have parity, equity, equality. I don't know. Ivor is in Tamworth. Ivor, what can you tell me?
Morning. Well, I started teaching in the days of GCSE. Of O-level and CSE.
Fair enough.
And in those days, boys always did better than girls all the time. At O-level. Yeah, oh yes. Okay. O-level and A-level, yeah. Boys were well ahead. And
that would have been. I mean, I'm not casting you as a sort of Dickensian character, Ivor. But
no.
But the opportunities would have explained that. More opportunities and therefore expectations for men, whereas the job opportunities for women. I was born in 1972. I was the last cohort to sit O-levels in 1987. Yes. So I can understand why that would have been then. And then it turned around, didn't it?
Yeah, it turned around because of GCSE. Well, they combined the two to make GCSE.
Yeah.
And they also brought in the element of coursework. And girls did better in coursework than boys. Always, they were more meticulous in their coursework. Boys would throw it together, and girls would take their time over it and repeat it, go over it, and things like that, you know. And so some courses, like sciences, it was 20% coursework.
Right.
When you could get even some English language GCSEs that were 100% coursework. And that meant the girls' elements. This is one of the reasons they brought out GCSE, was to help encourage girls to move forward.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was...
Probably because I was at an all-boys school.
Yeah, also was I, years ago. Yeah. However, over the years then, girls got better and better at coursework and boys kept the same. It was hard to get boys to complete coursework properly, you know. And so when Govey came along, and he took us back into the... academic side, like I did at my grammar school.
Right.
He took out of the...
Well, not just academic's not quite the right word. You mean the exam-based?
The exam-based academic, yeah. So he took out coursework at GCSE and A-level, which really...
this is your experience, albeit in an all-boys school, but
No, I taught in many schools.
Oh, you have?
I went to an all-boys school.
Because I was reading, I was trying to find that letter yesterday. I can't remember why, that Boris Johnson's teacher sent to his dad about him not respecting the network of obligations that bind us all. And there's another bit in it, actually, where it talks about, he does very well in scenarios where intelligence... is more important than having done any hard work. And that has always felt to me, and I hope I don't get attacked for this, That's always felt to me like quite a male trait. I can't think of many women who are good at blagging and you know, using raw intelligence to get through scenarios where hard work would have made their situation even better, but they look back and didn't need it. And this is kind of a variation on that, isn't it? It's just.
However, I have taught in an all-girls school.
Oh yeah.
And just down the road was the all-boys school, the matching school. So it's the same parents, same cohort, and all that, etc. And our marks at the girls' school were 10 to 50% above the boys' school at O level. At GCSE level.
At GCSE after the coursework was brought in. So you can see this graph tracking government policy.
Yeah, that's right,
Coursework and, what did we call it when I was... Continuous assessment, they called it.
That was right, yeah. Well,
continuous assessment rewards girls. You take that away and the boys surge ahead again.
Yeah. Because the stress on the exams, the boys sort of aren't so bothered, whereas girls get stressed and worried about it and can lose marks quite easily.
And that will be exacerbated by the worsening mental health that we hear about, with more and more girls particularly being diagnosed with problems since the coronavirus pandemic.
Yes. Well, I mean, I've taught some girls in the girls' school and they get stressed, shall we say.
Yeah.
Really stressed. This is before corona, of course.
If I put you in charge, what would you do? Because in an ideal world... we'd have a balance, wouldn't we? And the results would be more or less interchangeable.
See, I would now bring some element of coursework back. See, Govey thought we're getting cheeky.
Let's not call him Govey. Let's not call him Govey. It's too affectionate. Let's call him Govid.
Nice one. Well, Govid, he believed we were cheating. And the only way to stop you cheating is to get you in the exam hall and have the invigilator walking up and down. And it doesn't assess all of your knowledge, skills and understanding, really.
Of course it doesn't. What if you have a panic? What if you just have a nightmare on the day and that's a whole year? It's a whole year of work.
You freeze.
Yeah.
And you don't look at the next question or anything like that because, it's...
It took me a long time to understand how unfair this is because I benefited from the unfairness, as it were. But goodness me, it's patently obvious. So what, you just bring back elements of continuous assessment?
I would, yes. Yeah.
And we'd see things... And what you do, you'd bring it back incrementally, Ivor, until results were equal, and then you'd leave it.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. Until the boys have learned to
do a bit more work throughout the course of the year.
Yeah,
exactly that. And you strike out a balance between the exam performance and the year-long performance, or the entire course performance. I love that. Thank you, Ivor. 24 minutes after 11 is the time. Looking at exam results and a gap between boys and girls, narrowing on GCSEs to the smallest on record, but returning, under Ivor's analysis, to pre-GCSE standards when it comes to A-level. And this would be down to some of the enthusiasms of the former Education Secretary, Michael Gove, most obviously sticking everything on an exam, which I used to love. I used to love it. But now, with the benefit of a little bit of objectivity, I can see that it's a grossly unfair system. It would be equally unfair not to reward people who can turn it on in an exam in some way. So what do you do? As Ivor says, you have a balance. What about in the classroom? Is there anything going on in the actual classroom that explains what we're seeing in the broader trends today? Fran's in Crouch End. Fran, what would you like to say?
Hi,
Hello.
I'm a teacher of
children. Sorry,
I'm a teacher, and what I've noticed in my current school is that we often have departmental policies aimed at boys only. So we often try to reduce the gap between girls and boys as part of our kind of school-based policies. And I think that gives a disproportionate representation towards boys over girls.
Is it the squeaky wheel gets the most oil?
Mm-hmm. Yes, and it often leads to girls being neglected, basically, because it's assumed that they will achieve as they historically have in the past.
Gosh.
Yes, so I think that could partially account for it if other schools adopt similar policies.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, though, as well. So a boy, that's what I mean by the squeaky wheel. A boy who draws attention and extra help, if you like, or care is likely to be disruptive. Whereas, and we're generalising a lot today, but I hope not irresponsibly, whereas a girl who is suffering is perhaps more likely to be silent.
Yes. And
so
I
a girl who would benefit from help with her nerves, with mental health, with whatever it may be, is not going to be drawing attention to herself in anything like the same way that a boy who needs help is.
Absolutely. And I think my school's quite boy heavy. So it's often the case that the behaviour is poor, well, worse for boys typically. That's what we experience.
Sure.
And the girls are just quieter. So it probably contributes, like you said, to a lack of support, lack of interest in them over the boys.
And the targeting of boys. What about Ivor's theories with regard to... Because I don't think continuous assessment has been entirely eradicated. It still exists in A-levels and GCSEs. I think it depends slightly on what exam board it is. But the idea that continuous assessment favours female students and the exam-based system favours male students, does that chime with you?
Potentially.
You can say no. There's no rule against it. Ivor's not. He's not the Pope.
Well, it's hard to say.
Yeah, I guess it is. Okay, it makes sense to me, but then I've always been obsessed with this because of the way in which the system that favoured people like me was torn up in the year that I was smack in the middle of it and replaced with a system that I found much harder. I found continuous assessment much harder than all in on exam day. Is this what they call reducing the tail?
Yes, so it's basically getting boys up to the same level as girls,
right,
which I do think does contribute to the disparity that, especially in my school, that we see.
Yes, well, it must do, mustn't it? Because it means that girls are not getting pushed or promoted in the same way that the boys are. So I don't know what... I mean, is it a level... Would it be, if we had an entirely level playing field, would the results be level?
Oh, well.
No, we'll never know. We'll find out.
We'll never know.
Look, we could conduct an experiment, I suppose. Me and Eleanor could sit an exam and have our results combined. It is 28 minutes after 11. You're listening to James O'Brien on LBC. Male students have surged ahead in achieving A-star and A grades for the second consecutive year, while at GCSE level, a girls' share of top grades has declined to its lowest level since 2019. I want some parents now as well, not just teachers, but both retired and current. But why do you think, as a parent, this is happening, especially if you can actually see it through the lens of your own son and daughter? Why would a country where we're often told, I think wrongly, that the education system has become too feminised or that girls are getting too much attention, why on earth are we looking at a situation that depicts the polar opposite of that, where boys are performing better and girls are either stagnating or performing worse? The share of top grades has declined to its lowest since 2019. So that's share of top grades. So, the number of top grades might have stayed the same. It's the allocation of those grades between boys and girls that has seen girls get the lowest share. Does that count as a decline? I mean, technically, would you say that means girls? It does, doesn't it? If you're getting... I mean, they're doing worse compared to boys, but does it mean they're doing worse compared to girls from previous generations? This is precisely the sort of thing that I should have studied in my A-O-level statistics in 1988, which I had to sit because I did a GCSE in maths in 1987. I may have mentioned this before, and no one told me that didn't mean I could give up maths when I came back the following year, because legally you have to be taught maths until the age of 16. So doing like a clever clogs, everyone at my school did it, I wasn't special. Being a massive clever clogs, I did a GCSE in maths and came back in 1988 to be told, oh no, you still have to do maths, you have to do an AO level now, and you can do statistics if you want. I had no idea what it is, didn't know then, don't know now, got an E. If I'd paid attention, I'd be able to tell you whether or not girls have done better compared to girls in previous years, as opposed to what I can tell you, which is that they've done worse compared to boys in previous years. It's 11:30. Here's Dominic Ellis. Oh, don't forget, after this, the new deluxe missing word round. After Dominic Ellis brings you the headline.
James O'Brien on LBC.
33 minutes after 11. Okay, I don't do guarantees on the programme usually, except during Mystery Hour, but this should make you at least smile. The mystery word round, a lot of you cheated. Apparently it's on the LBC website, which probably makes it quite easy to work out what the missing word round is, but special treat for you, this is a deluxe edition of the missing word round that features audio. Man calls 999 after buying blank by mistake. Man calls 999 after buying blank by mistake. The answer is alcohol-free gin. Who had an immediate sense of sympathy for the poor fella at that point? You might need help. Man calls 999 after buying alcohol-free gin by mistake. You think I'm making this up? You think I'm making this up?
Officer, police, how can I help?
Is it possible to send a police car or something down to Tesco Extra to mediate over a problem?
What's the problem?
Well, I've just gone in now and they've got this miniature Gordon tin with tonic. It's in the alcohol section. I'm going over the park because it's nice and cool and sitting in the shade, and I look at it, it's 0 alcohol. And I just brought it back. He says, you've already drank one. And I says, OK, I'll pay for that one, and can I exchange the other ones? It cost me £6.
Okay, so this is not a police matter. You need to take that with Tesco. That's not a police matter. No, because I'm really angry, so I'll get arrested. Because I think... Why will you get arrested? Because I'm not having it. I've just paid him £6 for non-alcoholic gin and tonic.
Be kind. 25 minutes to 12 is the time. Benson is in Milton Keynes to steer us back to the changing nature of exam results and the changing relationship between the results of boys and the results of girls. What's going on, Benson?
Well, I've just got that we're doing with young people that are excluded from mainstream school.
Will that be a big enough factor to explain national trends, do you think?
Well, it's showing a 60+% increase over the last few years of young people being excluded permanently, and of that, boys are twice more likely to be excluded permanently, and 2/3 of young people in state-funded alternative provisions are boys. And with that, if those statistics aren't factored into the exam results, which my experience is that they're not, then
so the children who've been excluded don't get counted in the exam results. So therefore, the exclusions, if they are enough of them, because percentages aren't totals, would improve the boys' performance because there's more people who are likely to do badly being removed from the mix, being removed from the tally.
Absolutely, and the success rate of young people going into alternative provision and then sitting their GCSEs is extremely low, unfortunately, because they're fully disengaged from the education system by the time they go into an alternative provision. So it's more enrichment than education when kids tend to go into these alternative provisions.
It's more what? It's not a great phone line, but I want to hear that word. It's more what than education?
It's more risk management.
Yeah, so containment, as it were.
Yeah, they're much higher risk of criminal exploitation, sexual exploitation. This is a real country on a high scale. And I'm just interested, when I heard your stats, I'm driving to Secure Training Centre in Milton Keynes today to see some young people on long sentences who are secondary age. We work with these young people, and as that example, there's 46 young people in there right now. 3 of them are girls, 43 are boys.
Right.
As a proportion.
Oh, wow.
And they have 25 hours education in there a week.
Right.
But the education is very basic, and therefore I'll be amazed to ask how many of them actually got exam results when I'm in there in a couple of hours' time.
I could talk to you more about this, and in fact I would like to talk to you more about this, but the phone line is fading fast, and of course neither of us know how significant the numbers will be or how big an impact these numbers will be, albeit that the percentages are rocketing, whether or not the totals are big enough to have the kind of impact that you're talking about. I suppose on a school-by-school basis it would do if it was a particularly difficult school and it had a particularly high number of exclusions, but I wouldn't have thought we were taking enough kids out of the system to impact upon gender-based results comparisons. It's 11:38. Heaven help that chap. If you missed the last 5 minutes of the show, this won't make any sense to you, and I'm not going to explain it. Heaven help that chap if he ever buys a tub of I can't believe it's not butter. Angela's in Walthamstow. Angela, what would you like to say?
Good morning, James. So you didn't have to say that just as I was about to talk. I can't help chuckling about that.
There's nothing wrong with a chuckle, Angela.
So what I wanted to really point out, James, I am sorry, I know you didn't want any more teachers.
I never said that. So when I say let's get some parents on as well, it doesn't mean don't ring me. Well, anyway, you've rung me anyway, so it doesn't matter.
I've rung anyway, so I'm here now. Well, I teach A-levels, but I want to talk about the concept of when you're teaching generally. So in a lesson, as a teacher, you're told that you're meant to have adaptive learning or differentiation, as it used to be called, and you should be able to direct your learning to all the different levels, and they should all meet at the same place. However, when it gets to the exam, for GCSEs or A-level, that's not really the same situation. And, you know, the BTEC subjects where the students do a combination of exams and coursework, that really, to me, is a real indicative way of the way life goes. If you go to the workplace, you're not going to have to learn something for 2 years and then remember how to do it at the end of a certain time. You do things in stages. And unfortunately, the subject like BTECs, qualification like BTECs, are really kind of like frowned upon because people see it as a lower level, etc., and it's got to be something that's academic. But the BTEC really covers, to me, all levels of different styles of learning. If you're strong at exams, you get to do exams at part way. If you're strong at coursework, you get the coursework element. And, you know, with any kind of qualification, it's the vigour of assessment that's important, not what you're doing.
This is interesting, and forgive me if I'm missing the point. What's it got to do with the boy versus girl question?
Because if you're doing a combination of exams and coursework, both learners are going to actually meet in the middle, because if you're boys and you do well at exams, then you've got that exam content to actually perform in, and then the two ways of being assessed are averaged and you get your overall grade. So it just means that if a girl performs better at coursework, she's going to do that coursework a lot better.
So you, like Ivor, you think that if we could turn this into an algorithm, then it literally with 2 dials on it and 2 lines, and the job is to get the lines to be level so that they're superimposed on top of each other. One dial is exams, one dial is coursework. You just fiddle with these 2 dials until the lines are aligned.
Yeah, 100%.
That's really interesting. And of course, I mean, we generalise because, of course, I'm getting lots of messages from women who excel in an exam scenario and from men who prefer continuous assessment. But that doesn't spoil our thesis, I don't think.
No, because then if you allow assessment to cover both, you're hitting both ways of actually achievement.
Take you back, if I may, to the idea of, I can't remember what you called it, teaching...
Adaptive learning.
Adaptive learning. I've always wondered about that, because every school I went to streamed quite violently. From quite an early age, we were put into A stream, B stream, C stream, D stream, which is the opposite of adaptive learning.
Yeah.
What works best?
Well,
as a teacher, I'd have thought it was much harder to teach a mixed ability class than a class where everybody was more or less the same, surely.
It is. In most state schools, that's what you've got. You've got a mixed bag of students, and you need to make sure you can't just think, I'll teach to the higher level and the lower level will be able to reach that level. You've got to be able to pitch it that you're actually addressing everybody.
The amount of times we've tried to work out why private education or private schools perform better than state schools, generally, not always, obviously. And I don't know if I've ever picked up, because we usually talk about small class sizes, and that's obviously part of it, because you get more attention. But streaming must be a huge... Because grammar schools generally stream, don't they? But comprehensive, I think that's where the word comes from.
They don't. And also, James, many people that are in the comprehensive system don't have tutors after school as well.
No, of course not.
So you've got to think of what that teacher achieves with all the other things thrown into the mix is a lot harder than actually just having your... students that you expect to get the A stars and A's, where you've got the mixture of the A star to the E or the U.
Yeah, and there it is. I mean, there is perhaps the reason why elements of the comprehensive school experiment were misguided. Because if you want every child to perform to the very best of their ability, then you want the teacher to be meeting the very most of their needs. Yeah. And the teacher can't, because if you're teaching an A star student and a U student. And also, you're going to concentrate more. You're going to get more kudos from your head teacher for the A star than you are for getting a U student up to an E.
Exactly, which is the harder thing to do.
Of course it's the harder thing to do. I've understood that bit for years, but not the other bit of, so flipping out, streaming. Absent from all of the conversations I've ever had about this. And because it was just second nature to me that that's what happens in schools. Yeah. But of course it isn't what happens in most schools.
No, and if you stream in mainstream, you've actually put in the mind of the person in a lower stream that I'm a low attainer.
I know, and that's again, you've taken the words out of my mouth. Stigma was the reason why it was why it was undone. I'd have to talk to some of the lads I was at school with to work out what they felt about being put in lower streams, but they've all done very well. They've all excelled. We were, not all of them, but certainly, as I've mentioned a few times in the past, the kids that have become professionals, white-collar professionals, even white-coat professionals who were not in a stream, and they were taught aspiration and ambition and obviously what they needed to be taught to get the results that they needed to do what they wanted to do. So I don't know how heavy the stigma lands. If you're forgotten, it's 11 plus territory, isn't it? You fail the 11 plus and you're sort of being told that you're on the second division intellectually for the rest of your life. So I understand why the comprehensive school system was brought in. And I've got a horrible feeling that as I sit here extolling the virtues of streaming, I'm beginning to sound like Michael Gove again. And nobody wants that, least of all me. Angela, you're a star. Thank you so much. It is just coming up to 11:45. We're going to have one of our regular catch-ups with Noga Tarnopolsky next, because there are quite a few things going on in Israel and beyond that deserve wider coverage, coverage that you don't always, or at least that isn't always as prominent as perhaps it should be, but we do our bit to ensure that you get to know as much as you can about these kind of issues. There's one that you'll remember, the little girl who was in a car when members of her family were killed and sought to summon help, staying on the phone for some time and ending up being killed herself. There is frankly, harrowing is the word I'd use. There's a harrowing development in that story that we'll be looking at shortly. I'm talking, of course, of Hind Rajab, whose name probably should be slightly better known in this country than it is.
James O'Brien on LBC.
11:48 is the time. It's not only hard, of course, to separate stories. It is dangerous and inappropriate to introduce any form of hierarchy when it comes to tragedy and death. But there was something about the killing of Hind Rajab that moved many people, even more than other stories of children dying, both on October the 7th. And, of course, subsequently, it was in Gaza in 2024 that she was killed along with 6 relatives, but only after initially surviving the attack, answering a telephone call during which she pleaded for help. And then, after an ambulance sent to reach her was shelled, her body was recovered days later. The wheels move slowly, Noga Tarnopolsky, on stories like this. I don't think we should read too much into the 2 years that have passed since Hind's death. But tell us what happened yesterday, if you can. And hello.
Hi, James. Yes, yesterday, after what does feel like a very long time, the internal mechanism of the Israeli army that does what are preliminary checks on events that are considered possibly against orders, possibly illegal, finally came through with a report on several of the most infamous events that took place at the hands of Israeli soldiers since October 7th. The case of Hind Rajab, a 5-year-old girl, is one of the most famous. The other one, which similarly to the Rajab family case has been referred for criminal investigation, is also one, if I'm not mistaken, that you and I spoke about, yes, James, and has to do with the killing by an elite Israeli army unit of 15 unarmed health workers, paramedics in Gaza, which was then extensively covered up by the Israeli army. So on the one hand, I could tell, as a journalist who covers these matters here, I was glad to get this report yesterday. I think that we'll see, for example, the organization called Doctors Without Borders is probably going to appeal these results. There's a mechanism to appeal because 2 cases in which their convoys were hit by Israeli fire, much like the case of the World Central Kitchen convoy that was hit. And these are cases where the Israeli army immediately said, we screwed up, we made a mistake. Those have not been referred to criminal prosecution. But the heartbreaking story of Hind Rajab, obviously a very resourceful, very brave little girl of 5 who survived the massacre of her family, who were trying to flee in the family car from war. And there's an added kind of torturous detail here, which is that the Israeli army gave permission for paramedics to reach her. That had been coordinated by the Palestinian Red Crescent, if I'm not mistaken. But it was coordinated with the Israeli army. And as soon as the paramedics arrived, they were targeted and she was and killed. And those bodies, her body, weren't recovered then for 12 days, although that's the least of this story. So the case of the paramedics, who I still don't know what happened, but apparently they were basically taken out of their ambulances, put in a row, executed by an elite unit of Israeli soldiers, a sort of Israeli Abu Ghraib. And then their bodies and their vehicles were buried under false dunes, massive sand dunes created by Israeli military vehicles to cover it up. I still remember, James, that initially I was hearing out of Gaza, we don't know what happened. These people disappeared. They were unarmed. They were driving in such direction towards Rafah in southern Gaza. The initial reports were they're gone. It was extremely mysterious and extremely frustrating. I found myself at the time in a position of repeating what the Israeli army was saying initially, which was basically, we have no idea, and we were not operating there. Crucially, we were not operating there for days before I had to go on there and say that was all a lie.
Wow.
So both of these cases are very alive in my mind. And I hope that now that they've been referred for criminal investigation, again, within internal military structures, I hope that this will be a serious and thorough investigation. I hope we'll find out what happened. Especially, I hope we find out if any commanders just went rogue in those very heavy days of war. And I hope that there will be consequences.
I hope. Not confident necessarily, or
right.
Okay, that's fine. Just to clarify, this was the story, if I remember, that we would never have found out the detail of if it wasn't for the discovery of a mobile phone on which some footage had been filmed in the pocket of one of the victims. Or am I getting confused with another alleged atrocity?
No, that's right.
Yeah.
One of the paramedics had kind of a GoPro camera on his chest. That, of course, could only be found out once their bodies were found. And again, they were buried with their ambulances, with their vehicles, under what appeared to be kind of sand mountains created by Israeli army earth movers. So this took several weeks, but at one point, I think there had been one survivor. There were originally 6 paramedics, that one managed to escape, and he knew that there was supposed to be a camera on the bodies of one of them. And in fact, there was. So we, at this point, when the bodies were uncovered and their vehicles that had been crushed by Israeli bulldozers were uncovered from under the sand, by this point, it was pretty clear what had happened. But it's true that seeing those GoPro images that were recovered did give an entirely new dimension to the tragedy.
To more recent events now, Noga, and the relatively new Foreign Secretary, UK Foreign Secretary Ed Miliband, has this morning condemned the publication of a tender as an unacceptable and destructive act. It is a tender for the construction of 1,200 so-called settlement homes in the occupied West Bank, so illegal settlements. And the government stands accused this morning of seeking to end any chance of a Palestinian state by pressing on with projects like this. It'd be popular in Israel, though.
I don't think so, actually. No. Remember, no, because the settlers as a whole, many of whom are not extremists, many of whom kind of moved to a suburb that the government was giving them some tax benefits to move to in the last 50 years, they don't like these extremist acts because it puts their own lives at stake. But certainly Israelis, the vast majority of Israelis who live within the legal frontiers of the country, don't feel represented by this. The government has gotten into trouble on all levels. But if you let me, James, I want to take a step back because we're seeing a particularly, I would say, a particular kind of dance taking place right now with this E1 tenders. We're talking about 1,200 living units. So let's say flats.
Okay.
So we're talking about a few buildings being built. Now, the deadline to submit proposals, let's say contractors submitting proposals to build these buildings, which would then have to undergo a many months long process of evaluation. The deadline is, if I'm not mistaken, on the 19th of October. Pay close attention to the date because the elections in Israel are on the 27th of October, so a week later. I think that this tender was made public yesterday for two reasons. One reason is to drum up international outrage, and it has succeeded, absolutely succeeded. The UK, France, I think possibly even an American official made a comment. And the reason that people are outraged is double. One is that in the Oslo Accords, to which the international community serve as guarantors, and Israel, let's remember, are signatories, in the Oslo Accords, this area is designated Palestinian lands, full stop. Part of the future Palestinian state, and today part of Palestinian Authority state. And so both the sides that are trying to stop this and the side that are trying to stop the establishment forever of a Palestinian nation, including the Prime Minister of the State of Israel, have an interest in drumming up this kind of emergency feeling that if this tender goes through, then that's it. There can never be a Palestinian state. So first thing I'd like to do is just debunk that. If this process proceeds, if buildings are proposed and approved and ever constructed, we already have seen, you and I and the rest of the world, that the Israeli army is pretty good at tearing down buildings. We're talking about a number of buildings, and if a future Israeli government ever came to an agreement with a Palestinian government, these buildings could be torn down in an hour. So the feeling of sort of stranglehold that if this goes through, there can never be a Palestinian state serves political interests, but I really think it doesn't serve the public.
Okay.
But what we are seeing is really a drastic effort by the Israeli government, by its most extremist elements, and here I am including the Prime Minister, who has not condemned this, who has not stopped this. Of course, he could have stopped this tender going through, to do two things. One, to tell their base that they're moving ahead with an ethnic transfer project in the West Bank that will result in the impossibility forever of there being a Palestinian state. That is the bill of goods that's being sold to the most extremist, most ignorant in many ways, voting bloc that Netanyahu and his finance minister Bezalel Smotrich desperately need to keep on track.
Got it.
I'm underscoring this because it's so dangerous. These voters have been promised something that is not possible. They've been promised to make a state impossible.
That's incredibly illuminating. It really is.
And so they're the ones that many Israelis fear will become violent when that whole project, their project of taking over the West Bank, falls apart.
Yes. And speaking of the extremist elements of the government, I just want to take you back a couple of days to something that I personally had to read at least 3 times before I'd got my head properly around it. The National Security Minister, another far-right member of that cabinet, Itamar Ben-Gvir, has said on the record that Israeli forces should kill 30 or 40 people in Gaza every night, and not even pretended that he means people who pose a danger. He said that those killings should go beyond those who pose a danger at that particular moment, which I presume is designed to appeal pretty much to the same base.
I presume so too, but again, in order to describe to you what's happening in Israel, right? You know, this guy has been convicted more than a dozen times of hate crimes and terror. He's the first minister in the history of the State of Israel who was appointed minister with terror convictions under his belt. He's a racial supremacist. The fact that Prime Minister Netanyahu was allowed during the first part of this term in office, certainly throughout 2023, to continue representing Israel around the world, to meet with world leaders, to continue to operate as if he were a regular democratically elected official and not one who had appointed elements of the Ku Klux Klan to sit in the most powerful ministries of his government is an issue. And we're now coming to the end of that term, 3.5 years later, and we have a guy who tosses out recommendations for mass murder as if these were like sweets he's handing out children. The Prime Minister hasn't condemned this. The country that has come closest to really reacting in a way that I think is coherent with the horror of what Itamar Ben-Gvir said is, interestingly, Germany. The deputy foreign minister said he believes Israel should be sanctioned. Ben-Gvir personally in Israel should be sanctioned for this. Again, the government has not distanced himself from what Ben-Gvir said, and neither has the prime minister. And the German ministers went further and said that Germany cannot abide with any talk of racial superiority. This, of course, was aimed directly at the heart of the so-called right-wing nationalist Israeli government, but it's gotten no response at all.
Extraordinary. And I suspect that we'll be exploring similar territory together as that election looms ever closer, Noga. Thank you once again for your insights and reporting. Noga Tarnopolsky, they're live from Jerusalem, a freelance reporter helping us look at three stories. Well, more than three if you count the alleged atrocities that have now been passed on for criminal investigation, but also the tenders for illegal settlements, and finally the still sitting National Security Minister calling for entirely innocent people in Gaza to be shot, 30 or 40 of them every night. It is 3 minutes after 12. You're listening to James O'Brien on LBC. Talk about a crunching gear change, but no one can argue with the calendar or indeed the clock. It's Mystery Hour next.
James O'Brien on LBC.
7 minutes after 12, a tiny little bit late, but I'm pretty sure you'll agree that the conversation we were having with Noga merited the delay. Desperately important. It is, however, time for a much lighter moment together. It is time for your weekly opportunity to achieve the sort of satisfaction not ordinarily available anywhere else on your radio. It is a time for resolution. It's a time to solve riddles, to address conundrums, to bring enlightenment and joy into the darkest corners of our confusions and miscomprehensions. It is a radio phone-in that essentially involves you ringing in with a question and someone else ringing in with an answer. And copyright that, Keith. Don't let anybody nick it. That is just incredible, imaginative production. Don't mention the fact that I almost certainly nicked it off somebody else back in the day. And when I say back in the day, boy, do I mean back in the day. We've been doing this for about 111 years now. Seriously, there's a full Mystery Hour archive available at Global Player. All I'd say to you, if you're new to this, obviously the first thing I say to you is that you're in for a bit of a treat, and that there are phone lines free. Often, when it's a normal segment immediately before the 12 noon news, then everybody queues up and tries to grab early places. It doesn't help, if the question's rubbish, you still won't get on. Just being first in the queue doesn't help at all if the question is not up to sniff. But if we do something like we did just before the 12 noon news now, then actually you've got your better chance, a best chance of getting through to the programme, because it's kind of taken us all by surprise, Mystery Hour. So 2 phone lines currently free. They could be yours if you're quick. 0345 606 0973. Any question. The only rules are really in the eye of the person who picks up the phone. If it sounds a bit dull or if you're unnecessarily aggressive, you probably won't get on. But if it sounds interesting or we think that there's likely to be an illuminating answer, you probably will. I don't generally like motoring questions, but that's moving with the times, isn't it? That prejudice of mine. I mean, arguably, we did a motoring conversation yesterday. I didn't technically think it was motoring, but we often find ourselves on Mystery Hour. But don't ask like really boring questions like... why do I get more miles to the gas? Or there's a roundabout exit near me and you're not allowed to drive down that exit. Where does it lead? Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? I hope you know what I mean. If you don't know what I mean, you're probably going to be embarrassed when you ring in. But and then you hear someone else ask a question to which you know the answer. This is probably... Well, it's a genuine chicken and egg situation, this, because I was about to ask you, right, what's more important to Mystery Hour, the question or the answer? But you can't answer that, can you? That's the question. What's more important? Because if you got loads of questions but no answers, it would be rubbish. You can't have answers without questions, though, James. So answers are more important because... Oh, no, questions are more important because you can't have answers without questions. Yeah, but if we don't get any answers, what's the point of asking all the questions? Oh, questions are more important. That is a genuine chicken and egg scenario, isn't it? What's more important, the question or the answer? Not what comes first, the question or the answer. That would be obvious. But what's more important, or what's more intrinsic to the joys of Mystery Hour, the questions or the answers? Who knows? I suppose me is the short answer to that question, as Keith very generously suggested. 11 minutes, what is the most magical element of Mystery Hour? Oh, hello. It's 11 minutes after 12. Stop it. You're listening to James O'Brien on LBC, where Mystery Hour is upon us. If you've no idea what I'm talking about, and I mean even more so than in the other 14 hours of the week that we spend together, then do what you always do. Stay tuned and you'll soon work it out. There's prizes. Prizes! What do points make? If you submit my favourite contribution of the week, I will give you a game, a Mystery Hour game, either the original board game with a picture of me on the box or the travel edition with a picture of me on the tin. And they're complementary. So it's worth owning both of them. If you've already won one, you could win another and get, although frankly that's statistically unlikely, or you could go to mysteryhour.co.uk and buy your own for whoever you love most in the world. If you want to find the terms and conditions for the actual competition and your chance to win, then get over to lbc.co.uk. And that, I think, pretty much covers it. 12 minutes after 12 is the time. One phone note, Michelle's just grabbed it, but as soon as there are phone lines free, I will tell you. And let Mystery Hour commence. Danny is in Ilford. Danny, question or answer?
Hello, James. Firstly, can I just say it's an honour to talk to you.
It's not. Keith talks to me every single day and he doesn't feel even a tiny scintilla. He hates every second of it. But I am touched by your kindness. Thank you.
I worship the ground you walk on, truly.
It's ridiculous. Carry on, Danny. Get on with it.
Thank you for creating Mystery Hour. And I've been a listener to LBC since 1973, and this is the first time I've called in.
Oh, well, that is it. That's what we're here for, to finally tempt you over the wire. Just don't forget to leave your address with Eleanor so I can send you the cheque that we agreed on before when I saw you in the pub last night. Carry on, Danny.
Agreed. Okay, great. The question is inspired by the recent heat waves.
Yes.
So, human body temperature is around 37 degrees. So why was it last week I was struggling when it was 37 degrees outside? Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I mean it does. That's the official figure, is it, for human? But 37 degrees.
Yeah, average.
And then theoretically, if it was the same outside as inside, you should be in a state of equilibrium.
Yes,
but you weren't. You were absolutely steaming.
Yeah, and even at lower temperatures, like when it's 30 degrees, I'm uncomfortable. So you'd expect...
Where does that original 37 come from? Because if you take your temperature with a thermometer under your tongue, that's not what comes out, is it?
Well, I say it's average. I think it can... my wife's a nurse, and she said it's between 36 and 38. So,
is it?
So, yeah, 37 is average for humans.
And did she not have an answer to your question?
Well, she's working at the moment.
So you haven't asked her?
That's why I'm asking you.
Oh, so we could both end up looking a little bit silly here.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other thing is, James, if I go swimming in a swimming pool, that's often around 30 degrees.
Yeah.
And I feel very comfortable, very pleasant in 30 degrees water. But if it was 30 degrees outside, again, I would struggle.
Yeah, and it's definitely all centigrade, isn't it?
Yeah. Definitely.
Just checking that it's not currently 37 degrees Fahrenheit. No, all right, you're on. You're only allowed one question. We can't be doing with the swimming pool, Danny. We'll just ask about the body temperature. And it'll probably provide you with the knowledge you need to work out the swimming pool answer for yourself.
Yeah, sure. My first question stands, and can't wait to hear the answer.
Do you think you'll ever ring again, or is this it now after
I've got the taste for it.
54 years. 54 years. LBC was born in the same year as me. 54 years it's taken you.
I was born in 1960, so I've just retired, which is why I've now got the time to do all the things I've never done before.
You'll be on all the time. You'll be one of those people that we kind of look on as members of the family before the year is out. Danny, stay safe, mate, and thank you for the kind words. I do appreciate them, even though I sometimes unconvincingly pretend not to. It's 12:15. You're listening to James O'Brien on LBC. There's your first question. If the average body temperature is 37 degrees, why do we feel so hot when the temperature outside the average body is 37 degrees? It's going to be one of those answers that makes you go, "Do."
James O'Brien on LBC.
After 12, and we're off. Brian's on the Costa Blanca. Brian, I don't know the Spanish for question or answer, and I only realised that about a nanosecond after thinking, I know, I'll ask him in Spanish whether it's a question or answer. But here we are. Question or answer in English.
It's a question, James, please.
Carry on, Brian.
When someone is in court and they take the oath, they promise the evidence they will give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. My question is, what's the difference?
Yeah. Where does that come from? Probably Latin,
yeah,
isn't
surely
it?
the truth is truth.
I promise to tell the truth.
Yes.
Not all
why?
the truth, or the whole truth and nothing but the truth. The whole
Why
truth.
not just choose one of them?
No, Brian.
What?
Hold on one moment. Let's think about it. I promise to tell the truth. You could lie.
Yes.
You could lie by omission.
Then go to the second one, the whole truth.
I promise to tell the whole truth.
Right. I'll go to the third one. Nothing but the truth.
So we've got the first two. We know why we need a qualification of...
No, not necessarily.
Yeah, you do.
Let's just have one.
No, because I could lie by omission.
The evidence I shall give shall be nothing but the truth.
Yeah. Oh, I see. So we just use that one. Nothing. No, because that's it's nothing but the truth, but it's not the whole truth, Brian.
Well, let's choose the whole truth.
But then it would be not. There might be some things there that are not true. I could tell the whole truth, but I could tell some lies as well.
That wouldn't be the whole truth, then.
Yes, it would. I'd tell the whole truth and some lies.
Then tell nothing but the truth.
So you need all three.
Well, all right.
Well, yeah, you've given up. You've given up very easily there, Brian.
No. I've thought that answer through myself, but I still don't think. I'm thinking why you can't.
We need case studies. So ask me a question. Go on, ask me.
Why not just? I promise to tell nothing but the truth.
Yeah. Okay. What were you doing on the night of the 17th?
Watching TV.
Exactly. But you also went out and killed someone. So you've told the truth when you said watching TV, but you haven't told the whole truth.
Yes, but I'm...
And then if you said, all right, I did actually go out and kill someone, but they pointed a gun at me, then you have not told nothing but the truth, because they didn't point a gun at you. But you were still telling the truth, that you went out and you shot them, but you didn't... That's the whole truth, that you went out and you shot them. But you added extraneously that you shot them because they pointed a gun at you first, and that is not true. But you have still told the truth, and the whole truth, but you have not told nothing but the truth. Ergo, you need all three.
Well, James, I like it.
I like it too, Brian. I like it too.
Yep, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I think I've got it now.
Adios, Brian.
Adios to you.
Adios, amigo. Round of applause for me. That was wonderful. I think we might have peaked, Keith. I think we might have peaked early this week, thanks to Brian. Elvia is in Brentford. Elvia, what would you like to say? I beg your pardon. Question or answer?
Question, please.
Carry on, Elvia.
So how is it possible that sometimes you can actually smell rain before a single drop has fallen? What are we actually smelling?
Can you?
I can. I actually can. Not all the time.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be... I mean, if you've got an accumulation of pressure or whatever it is, you know, clouds and stuff, and the water content in the air is about to tip over into rain, it makes sense that you'd be able to sense a sort of a shift in the...
But how does the smell get to us before the rain does?
What does it smell like? Rain.
Like rain, yeah.
Right. And we're not talking about petrichor, you know, the smell of the soil after it's rained. I love that smell. It's a beautiful smell.
I do as well.
It's also one of my favourite words as well, Elvia. I love that word. It's beautiful. What is it that we're smelling? Because it's something in the air that is only there before it rains.
How does it get there?
So what is it? What is it, and what does it smell like? It's not petrichor, as a couple of people have very foolishly already texted in. But we want to know what it is. What are we smelling? Or is it what are we smelling when we smell something before the rain comes?
What exactly are we smelling, or how is it possible that you can smell rain before it comes?
Is it raining at the moment?
It is. It actually just started raining.
I thought. I don't know why. I could smell it. I'm in a soundproofed, absolutely airtight studio. Well, it's not airtight, is it? Otherwise I wouldn't be able to breathe. But I'm in a soundproof studio. I have no idea what the weather's like when I'm at work. It's absolutely ridiculous. Got no windows, got nothing. It is 21 minutes after 12, Elvira, thank you. And the reason I asked whether it was raining or not is because Elvira is in Brentford, which also happens to be where my garden is, because there'd be no point me asking Brian in flipping Costa Blanca whether it was raining or not, would I? Because it would have no interest to me whatsoever as someone who is sitting in Leicester Square, wondering about whether his lawn in Brentford is about to go green again at some point in the not too distant future. Greg's in Shaftesbury. Greg, question or answer?
Question, please, James.
Carry on.
How do seagulls know to come inland for food at certain times of the year?
Tell me more. Tell me what you mean by that.
Well, say, for example, at Glastonbury, you're sat there trying to put it all back in the box in the morning, and there is...
Is that a figure of speech, Greg, or are you just talking about food?
I'm just talking about food,
Carry on.
But they're there, or they're often behind farmers when they're dragging their soil and stuff. So how do they know to be there so far inland?
I mean, they must have scout goals, mustn't they? Scout seagulls.
Maybe, but they don't seem the sharing type.
They come out and they must be the sharing. They flock. You don't really get flocks of seagulls. So they can't. Isn't there a band called Flock of Seagulls?
There is a band called Flock.
Yeah, there you go. So there must be flocks of seagulls then. Otherwise, the band wouldn't. So you're a flock. You're in a flock of seagulls, and one of you's a scout. Well, perhaps they take it in turns, and you fly around, and you see, for example, someone at Glastonbury trying to get it all back in his box, or you see a big tractor ploughing through a field, and you fly back to the flock, and you say, lads, I have found our lunch, and then they all fly inland and fill their little beaks.
But how often do you see a seagull on its own inland?
About 3 times a week.
Yeah.
So how do the seagulls know? Because they're not there all the time. That's the point you're making, isn't it? Because sometimes they move. Like they might have actually now started roosting near a rubbish tip, for example, because it's replaced their tradition. I mean, we need to get over the idea that seagulls only hang out at the sea, don't we?
Yeah, I guess so, yeah. But I'm from Bournemouth, so it's quite hard.
Yeah, of course it is. But I think it is a miscomprehension, despite the name, that seagulls will only ever want to be at the sea. They'll go where the food is.
Potentially, but still, you don't see them. I don't think you see them at Glastonbury when Glastonbury's not on.
Do you not? How do you know? You're never there when Glastonbury's not on.
Well, I live nearby.
Oh, all right then, clever clogs. How do seagulls know where to go inland? 0345 6060 973. That works for me. Nice one, Greg. Dave's in Goosetree in Cheshire. Dave, question or answer?
Question, please, James.
Carry on.
My daughter, Amy, was wondering why all large train terminal stations seem to be arch-shaped.
Yeah. I mean, can I ask how old Amy is?
She's actually 23, but she's just a bit of a scaredy cat on the phone.
That's kind of done away with my next question, because I was going, well, no, I can still ask this. Is she quite is she susceptible to a little bit of flannel and nonsense, or would she actually be quite impatient with that, and she's just here for a proper answer? Because I'm poised to start thinking out loud, Dave. And had she been 8, I probably would have done. But given that she's 23 and possibly already drumming her fingers, I'm not sure that I'm going to go off on a bit of a meander with this one.
She'd be very impatient with that. She didn't like my dad humour at all.
No, there we go. Thank you for that. Good job we clarified. All right, there you are. The rain runs off it, I suppose. No, it's not that. The same shape as tunnels. No, not that, because they're much bigger than a tunnel. Why are easier to build, cheaper to build? You can have both ends are open. Right, you're on. This for Amy and indeed for Dave. 25 minutes after 12 is the time. So now you've got an idea of how it works if you're new to Mystery Hour. For example, how can our average body temperature be 37 degrees when we are so uncomfortable when the average temperature outside our bodies is 37 degrees? I answered Brian's question. It was a brilliant question, that. Possibly my favourite. What are you smelling when you smell the thing that you smell just before it starts raining? How do seagulls know where to go? And why are large train... is it termini, Keith? Termini? Terminuses? Terminals. Sounds like Latin, that. Termini, terminuses, terminals, terminamus, terminatis, terminant. Why are large railway stations always arch-shaped? Keith has got that look on his face that says to me the answer is obvious. We shall see. And, of course, you can now add your question to the list as well. 03456060973. 26 minutes after 12 is the time. Michelle is in Boston. Michelle, question or answer?
It's a question, James.
Carry on, Michelle.
Okay, so during the drought that's just happened,
yes.
I know, I got all confused.
I thought you were going all posh. Thought you were going hyacinth bouquet then. During the draft. Carry on.
Me. So I noticed that in my garden, my lawn died and was like a sandy, rubbishy, dead colour.
Yeah.
But all of the weeds, bright green, and are growing really well.
Really?
Why aren't they affected by the drought?
The weeds in the lawn?
Yeah.
Well,
there's dandelions, and there's those burdock leaf things that you rub on stinging nettles things.
Yeah.
They are going gangbusters.
Really?
But my lawn is dead.
Well, they're not going gangbusters.
And he said, no, they really are.
No, but they're not greener than they would be if there wasn't a drought.
Possibly not.
No.
I've never really paid attention before.
Well, you wouldn't, would you? So, the obvious answer would be that they don't need as much water as grass.
Yeah, but why not?
Because
they're all
they just
planty things.
Yeah, but they're not, are they?
It's not a good enough answer, James.
No,
I don't
come
want
off
to
it.
be,
You've got basil. You got basil, like a pot of basil, on, and then you got something next to it like a cactus. They're both planty things, Michelle.
They are indeed, but they don't come from the same place. Whereas the weeds in the lawn I have are both indigenous to a certain extent. Whereas a cactus.
Yeah, all right. Not a cactus then. A fern.
I don't know anything about ferns.
Right, they don't need much water.
Okay.
Not as much as basil.
I'd like to know why they don't need as much water.
Well, why don't you need as much water as someone who's really thirsty?
Because I'm, a camel.
You're on.
I thought this was an excellent question.
Well, it might be. Quite often when I take the mickey out of questions, I end up feeling foolish because they turned out to... But I'd have thought that a weed is by definition something that can survive more easily than a flat... No? Yes?
Don't know.
All right.
Don't know.
You're on. I like it. Michelle's weeds. Dave / Amy's railway stations. Greg's seagulls. Elvia's rain smells. And Danny's temperatures. We're off and we're running. Thank you, Michelle. From Boston to Carlisle. Pete's there. Pete, question or answer?
Question, please, James.
Carry on, Pete.
So I'm a truck driver, and throughout the day, I collect a myriad of insects and bugs on my windscreen.
You do?
Every now and then, probably, I don't know, on a ratio once a month, I get a red one.
Well, a red splat?
Red,
blood?
like blood. Yeah.
Mm.
So my question is, what insect is that?
What?
Now, back in the day when going out on the lorry with your grandfather was classed as childcare.
Did you do that? Was your grandfather a lorry driver as well?
He was, yeah, he was.
Is it a family business, or did you just follow him into the same job?
I just followed him in, really.
Lovely.
But he used to tell me that they were tooth fairies.
Oh, what?
Yeah, I know, right?
Good Lord. I went, then, because you said tooth fairy. I had like a Pavlov reaction. Tooth... What? Are you splatting tooth fairy? I like your granddad.
And obviously, we both know now that tooth fairies don't fly that low.
Thank you. Well played. Good man. There you go. Conscious of the fact that it's the school holidays. And, of course, it wouldn't be funny, would it, anyway?
100%. So my question, like I say, is what bug splats red?
I think I know.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I think so. Well, you know me. I probably don't, but I still think I do. I think it is... Ready? Not a dad joke, I swear. I think it's a recently fed mosquito.
You might be onto something.
I think I am. Have you ever done that? Have you ever managed to squish a recently fed mosquito, like yourself, on holiday, or...?
No.
Because you get a red splotch.
It makes total sense.
So it's human blood on your windscreen, Pete. Oh, not necessarily, because they also eat animal blood, don't they? They'll drink it. I don't know. That's what it is. It's a recently engorged. It's a lovely word. It's a recently engorged mosquito.
Well, you've lifted a lot of guilt off my shoulders there, because for years I was hoping that there weren't children missing out because I'd taken out tooth fairies.
Perish the thought. There it is. I think that's 2 for me today, Keith, actually. Thank you, lovely. Happy driving, Pete. Lovely question. Seriously, you take care. So that goes off the board. That's nice, that. I've done a few more than usual lately. It's just the nature of the beast, isn't it? Sometimes they come around and my pointless meanderings actually end up leading us all to a happy destination. Here's Matt Hewitt with your headlines.
James O'Brien on LBC.
6 minutes to 1, and I'd like to qualify my last answer. Not just mosquitoes, but a fly that has recently drunk a lot of blood. All right, it could be. There are many, many flies in that category. I remembered during the news, and definitely not because you told me via text. So you got your horse flies, your deer flies, your stable flies, your tsetse fly. We wouldn't get those; they're only in Africa. But there you go. You get horse flies. So it's a recently engorged, blood-filled fly splatting on your windscreen. And therefore, every now and then, you'll get a red splat, where normally you don't. Andy's in Reading. Andy, question or answer?
I have an answer, James.
Thank you, Andy.
It's to the question about temperature. Why is it uncomfortable when the outside temperature is the same as body temperature? Now, human body, we metabolise. So actually, to maintain health, we have to keep our temperature the same. And what we're actually doing when we're metabolising is producing heat, producing energy. So we are actually a balance between the heat that we produce and the necessity to actually lose heat and temperature to maintain. It's like a seesaw, so that we can maintain. So the harder it is for us to lose heat by certain mechanisms because the temperature outside has risen. So in other words, if it's 37 degrees, it's harder for us to conduct heat energy outwards and get rid of heat. We have to rely on other mechanisms like sweating, evaporation, which makes us feel uncomfortable. So as the temperature goes up, it's more difficult for us to get rid of heat energy, and therefore we adapt to another mechanism which makes us feel a bit more uncomfortable. So
is that also the different... I mean, this is part, I think, of your answer, internal versus surface temperature, or not?
Yeah, no, so that's it. Yeah, so what happens is that we have various adaptive mechanisms. So when we're cold, we hold all the warm heat inside of the body, and that's why our hands are cold, because we're not letting any of the heat energy out.
Even though our core temperature is still going to be between 36 and 38 degrees, we're freezing cold outside.
Exactly. So we maintain our core temperature the same. The interesting thing about this is the adaptive mechanisms. Let me give an example of babies.
Please.
Babies are absolutely fascinating because babies can't put on clothes. They can't go for a run.
I mean, they can't talk or anything, can they? They're not that interesting. Sorry, carry on, Andy.
No, they are interesting, James. I'm going to persuade you on this because babies, I didn't know if you know, babies don't shiver. And so babies don't have all of these adaptive mechanisms or behavioural mechanisms to maintain their body heat. So they tend to lose heat quite quickly. So they have developed a mechanism where they metabolize massively to try and produce heat more to balance the heat loss and the heat gain so that they stay the same, which is why when you hug a baby, they always feel nice and warm.
They do.
So
I never noticed they can't shiver.
Oh, yeah. Babies
what time does that kick in? What age does shivering kick in?
Oh, I don't know. I think it's a baby. That one I'd be slightly making up. But
don't worry, I do it all the time.
Well, I'll happily make up an answer.
18 months.
Yeah, why not? That sounds good. Actually, that might be the answer. That might be close. But myself as a doctor and an anaesthetist and an intensive care doctor, when we're an operation's going on, one of the things your anaesthetist will measure and maintain is your body temperature and various adaptations that we do to try and keep that the same.
Wow.
And so that is a really, really important part about the physiology and maintaining health is maintaining your body temperature. And it's the balance between gain of temperature and loss.
Wow. That's a lovely answer. I hope that it's enough to satisfy Danny. I think it will be. At 54 years you've been listening to LBC. He's never rung in before, and you've just given him an answer to his question, Andy. Qualifications, you've already told us, but tell us again for the tape.
Yeah, I'm a doctor of medicine, anaesthetics, intensive care, and just a little sprinkling on the top. One of the mechanisms that we use to lose temperature is evaporation, which answers the question, why is it nice to stand in a swimming pool with nice water over your body when you have a lovely evaporation so you can enjoy the temperature of the water and enjoy the evaporation to keep you nice and cool as well.
Amazing work. Round of applause for Andy. That was lovely, mate. Thank you. I've done it too much. You see, I told you my kids have got a little bit impatient with my first band was called Line. I'm full on grown territory now, not even kind of affectionate dad joke, stop it please, but everyone's doing it now. He said babies don't shiver. Julian Sheffield said, there you go, James, it's a new name for your first band. Sam's in Amersham. Sam, question or answer?
Hi, James. I've got an answer for Michelle.
Marvellous.
It's about weeds.
Yes.
So she's wondering why the weeds in her lawn are looking lush when the lawn isn't. And the weeds she mentioned in particular, the dandelions and docks, they've got very long taproots. So it's an adaptation that allows them to reach into the groundwater much below.
So I was wrong. It's nothing to do with how much water they need. It's how much water they get.
They're able to reach into areas that are a bit deeper, where the water hasn't evaporated quite as much, and they're able to sustain themselves that way.
That's a perfect answer. Qualifications?
So, as you know, I'm an award-winning garden designer and horticulturalist.
I know that, but this is mystery hour. We can't take anything for granted or go. Cut any corners. What?
That's okay. I wanted to ask you about your Brussels sprouts. Did you find out the issue with your Brussels sprouts?
No, my raised beds this summer have been an absolute disaster, and then the hosepipe ban kicked in anyway. So I'd rather not talk about it if it's all right with you.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I was going to give you a tip.
Well, I'll take the tip though. For next year.
So
it's too late to sow anything now.
Yeah, one of the reasons why Brussels sprouts don't produce edible fruiting balls...
That's the name of my first band, the Edible Fruiting Balls. Carry on.
Start with that. Is because the roots are not packed in enough, so they don't like rocking at the roots. So what you have to do is press down really hard around the roots, compact the soil, and that helps to keep them really stable, and then they will give you proper fruit.
That actually makes perfect sense. Yes, I think I was a little bit too giddy when I was preparing my raised beds last year. I did too much raking.
So you
and
probably
hoeing.
got a light, friable soil.
I did too much digging, and because I was digging in the manure. And I probably left it too sort of.
Oh, there you go.
Too
Hopefully
flaky.
next year.
Next year is the time.
You can thank me.
I've got a tree. What about a fern? I've got a fern. I've got two ferns, Sam.
Yeah.
One of which is, I mean, you would not believe how lush it is. They're not identical ferns. One's got a slightly darker green than the other one, but they're tree ferns. And the other one, which I've repotted, and I bought some special soil, like ferny soil for it, and it's not dying, but it has got, I'd say, 1 in every 4 leaves is looking a bit brown, frankly. How do you look after a fern?
So tree ferns, quite different from standard ferns.
Yeah, it's a tree fern.
So if you're talking about tree ferns, they don't actually take up water from the.
No, I've been watering
base.
the
water
central
them in the crown.
The crown, is it called? Yeah, so you don't water the base at all. You do all your watering down the middle.
No, that's basically dead. That stump, and it's growing out of the top. So if you were to add an irrigation line, you'd have to make it run all the way up the stem and into the crown, which is where the.
No, I've been doing that.
Fresh growth is coming from.
But I'm not. I have been doing that. I'll stop watering the base of it now. I'll do all the watering down the crown, and then I like to do a fine mist on the leaves as well.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like you're doing all the right stuff.
But why? So there's nothing else I can do then. I'm not. I mean, you can't. Can you?
Is it in full sun?
No, it's not in full sun. I'll turn it around a bit as well. And with the other, maybe I'll swap them round and then see if it is where it's sitting.
They can take pretty deep shade. So if you've got a spot that nothing else will grow in,
what will be making it go brown? Will it be?
Probably lack of moisture.
Lack of moisture, there you go. Can you see? Anyway, it was cheap at the garden centre. It was pretty brown when I bought it, and it's less brown now than it was when I bought it.
Well done.
Thank you. And then come winter, it falls apart completely, right? You have to wrap it up in blankets or something.
Hessian bag, like a potato sack or something will do the job.
When do I do that?
Come November. It's really about
Keith, write that down, Keith.
stopping the frost from getting into the crown.
Because I'll be gutted if it doesn't come back next year. They're amazing, aren't they, tree ferns? They're little, for people who don't know, they're like snails. You get the whole frond.
They're like a baby orangutan.
They just
when they unfurl.
They unfurl.
They're very strokeable.
Gorgeous, aren't they? Absolutely gorgeous.
Absolutely adorable.
Done the qualifications. Have you had your round of applause yet? Can you remember?
I haven't.
Well, here it is. Actually, have to, because otherwise I might have to pay you for your horticultural. No, thank you so much. Lovely stuff. I'm going to start calling her Samisham as opposed to Sam in Amersham, because it'll save time. Richard's in Havering. Richard, question or answer?
Morning, James. I've got a question. It's a bread-related one.
Oh, thank you.
So, like most people, I throw out the ends of the bread and put it on the lawn and let the birds eat it. But I've shifted. It's a bit of an issue in Havering, but I've shifted more to sourdough bread now. Yeah, absolutely. So, there is a debate whether we're a London borough or Essex at the moment.
Yeah, of course there is, yeah.
We, what I've noticed is that it doesn't get eaten. So they're not, the birds and whatever's eating it before is not eating the sourdough bread. So I wonder what's going on there?
So Essex birds are turning their beaks up at sourdough bread.
You beat me to it, yeah.
You can take the boy out of the tabloids.
Exactly.
Wow. So there's something about sourdough bread that the birds don't like. It's not because it's too... No, because it would get wet, wouldn't it, and all sorts of things. It's not the texture. It's going to be the contents, we think.
There's something in it that maybe it's not salty enough, or it's not got yeast. I don't know. I really don't know.
Yeah, okay, you're on. Yeah, why don't the birds like the sourdough? And you prefer the sourdough, do you? You're sticking with it?
I've switched. I don't eat much anyway, but apparently it makes you less fat, so I'll stick with that.
What's not to like? Lovely stuff. 12:45, very nearly is the time. Richard, thank you. So I need some answers now. Hurry up, quickly. Ready? Done that one. What could you smell when you smell that thing that you smell just before it starts raining? What are you smelling? 0345 60 60973. How do seagulls know where to go when there's about to be a feast, like at a festival, a music festival, or the rubbish at a music festival, or a farmer is ploughing his field? 0345 60 60973. I think Keith has got the station's question right, so we will wait to see whether someone rings in to tell us, and if they don't, I'll probably let Keith speak through me to you. We've done the weeds question with Samisham, and we want to know about the sourdough bread. Why don't the birds dig the sourdough? 0345 60 60973. And remember, there's a board game up for grabs, a mystery hour game up for grabs, to my favourite contribution of the week. And there is no, I don't think, there's no out in front contributor so far, is there? There's no obvious winner of it so far, so it could be you.
James O'Brien on LBC.
Minutes to 12. Can we play the grass clip just to mix things up a bit? I know we don't normally do that during Mystery Hour, but I keep forgetting to do things and then remembering about a week later and thinking back, I never told you about that. It's just we've sort of taken our eye off the ball with regards to Donald Trump. We mentioned it right at the top of the week, the fact that we kind of stopped talking about him, which is probably what he wants, because the reason why we stopped talking about him was because it was impossible to keep up with what a menace he is. So I just thought you might enjoy this little clip of him from yesterday as much as I did.
If you come back in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, it's in shock. But you come back in 2 or 3 weeks, this has all been redone. It's all been topsoiled. In other words, we put topsoil, brand new earth on top. Lot of good ingredients in that earth for grass. If you're grass, you're very happy. And this grass will look so beautiful.
Yeah. Stuart's in Hackney. Stuart, question or answer?
Quick question, James.
Carry on then.
I was going across the Woolwich Ferry the other day, and it just dawned across me, do ships or heavy cargo boats like that have weight limits?
Well, I mean, in the sense that eventually they'll sink.
Well, that's not the question.
What is the question then?
Do they have weight limits?
So, do they weigh everything going onto a boat to make sure it doesn't get close to the limit at which it would sink?
Well, that can't happen because we do that across the Woolwich Ferry, don't we?
Yeah.
They don't have any scales there.
No, but they probably... apart from sinking, what would tell us that the weight limit had been reached?
Well, without the ships or the boat sinking.
Yeah, unless it sank, how would we know that we had overloaded it to the point where the weight limit had been breached?
Exactly.
What? What do you mean exactly? I'm asking you.
Well, how can you can't load up a ship and wait for it to sink, can you?
No, exactly. So what would a weight limit be?
That's what the question is. Is there a weight limit, and how do they determine the weight limit?
That's not the question. That can't be the quickest. Because we just said they don't weigh everything going onto a ship, do they?
But they can't. They can't weigh everything.
They can't. I know. They just can't. So there's no weight limit. They'll see. I'll tell you what. They'll just watch it, Stu. And when it goes down below, is it the Plimsoll line? What's the Plimsoll line? Is there anything to do? No, nor me. So there'll be little lines on the hull, I think it is the Plimsoll line.
No.
Well, you can't say no. You can't go in 30 seconds from no, I haven't got a clue, to going no, can you?
But they don't have that line. I'm sure that's...
It's the Plimsoll line, mate. No, it's the Plimsoll line. Every boat has a Plimsoll line, and once it's reached the Plimsoll line, you can't put any more gear on it. Boom.
No, but...
What, but?
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Nobody looks at the Plimsoll.
Everybody looks at the Plimsoll. Everybody looks at the Plimsoll line, Stuart. Everybody looks at it. If you don't look at the Plimsoll line, you're going to sink your ship.
Not possible.
It is possible. It's the Plimsoll line. Everybody knows it's a Plimsoll line except you.
No, that's not right.
You must have been off school that day. Did you miss a lot of school as a child?
Not one day.
Oh, well, maybe you had an ear infection.
Yeah, but that's not the answer, though.
It is the answer, though.
That can't be the
all right,
answer.
who do you want to take the answer from, then, if you're not going to take it? It's buoyancy. The boat is buoyant, right? You load up the boat. You can't, as you've acknowledged, you've got a gauging...
You sound rather indecisive.
I'm not indecisive. I'm absolutely adamant. It's a Plimsoll line. Or,
it's not.
It is.
What if the ship doesn't have a Plimsoll line?
Well, then it's doomed.
No, there's got to be a better answer to that.
That is the how can you say it's a better answer? It is precisely why ships have a Plimsoll line. It's a brilliant answer.
No, that's not an answer. You're not getting a tick on this one, son.
I am getting a tick on this one, son. Who would you accept an answer from, then?
Somebody that's maritime knowledgeable.
All right. About Ash in Northampton?
I don't know. Is he maritime knowledgeable?
He flipping is, mate. Have you not been listening to our conversations about the Strait of Hormuz?
No.
What? You only tune. You're one of those people that only tunes in for Mystery Hour, aren't you?
No, I listen to all the time.
Yeah. Just like you never missed a day of school, but you've managed to miss all of our conversations about the war in the Middle East.
Easy, Tiger.
Easy, Tiger. All right, I'll leave it on the board, but I'm right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. It's the Plimsoll line, 12:53. There's a gauging lock in Brentford. I don't know why I feel this is relevant, but that would actually, back in the day, weigh you by water displacement aglaid the side of the lock as opposed to on the actual boat itself. So I don't know whether barges have Plimsoll lines. You would water displacement on your way into the Thames versus water displacement on your way out would allow them to calculate what your weight was. Why are you shaking your head at me? Yeah, it would. Well, so anyway, it's called a gauging lock. It's lovely. And so is the whole of Brentford. Ash is in Northampton, crikey. Question or answer?
I'm back on Mystery Hour, James. Answer, please.
Carry on. This is where we met, isn't it? It's quite romantic, this. Go on, then.
Okay, the word he needs is tons per centimetre.
Right.
What that is when you work out for each cargo how much it's going to submerge the vessel a centimetre across its entire length.
Yes.
And how many tons you can then load of it.
So that's vessel specific, the TPC.
Yes, because it will depend upon the underwater volume, but it will also depend on the dock water density.
But in the absence of scales, i.e. a ship is loading without you being able to weigh everything going onto it, it's all about the Plimsoll line.
Yeah, you just do it by load lines. So load lines is what you'd use.
Why are you saying load lines, not Plimsoll lines?
Because the Plimsoll line's a very specific load line.
What, just for loads of Plimsolls?
Just for, well, it was designed as the sort of like the maximum you could go to without the ship sinking.
Yeah.
Sort of for safety margin.
So you wouldn't necessarily want to go all the way. Okay, got you. So there's a specific to a Plimsoll line, but a load line is a little bit more variable.
Yeah, so you can have like your freshwater, your tropical, your winter North Atlantic, all sorts of different ones.
What's the dock density water? Dock water, what's that all about?
Dock water density?
Yeah.
Well, the density of seawater is 1025.
Yeah.
The density of freshwater is 1000. Dock water is usually a mixture of seawater and freshwater, so we're somewhere in between.
Brackish.
So you have to interpolate between them to get the exact figures.
Interpolate. God, you should get a round of applause for that and that alone, shouldn't you? There you go. So salt makes water more dense.
Yes, which makes the vessel float more.
Of course it does. Yeah, because
so you sink more.
So if you were moving from if you were moving from saltwater to freshwater, you'd have a small risk.
Yes. Well, if you're moving from saltwater to freshwater, so you would sink down to your marks. If you're moving from freshwater to saltwater, you float up.
You are so good, man. It's actually ridiculous. You and Noga today are addressing very different issues, I grant you, but flipping out, you both absolutely knocked it out of the park. It made me feel like a third wheel on this programme. Have a round of applause from me. Sorry, hang on. Qualifications?
I remain a chief officer in the Merchant Navy and a tenure of Merchant Navy chief officers.
There we go. Carry on. Round of applause for Ash. Collecting them like stamps these days, he is. 12:56 is the time. There you go, Stuart, mate. Dan's in Manchester. Dan, question or answer?
Good afternoon, James.
Hello,
pleasure to talk to you.
Likewise.
It's an answer for you. So your caller previously mentioned about why railway stations are arched. So two possible theories to that is to show off the grandeur of the railway company at the time when they first created it.
Yeah.
As a show off as wealth. And then the second theory that I had was, obviously back in the olden days of steam engines and locomotives, all the smoke would then travel up into the air rather than like sideways into members of the public, and potentially also to manage an annoyance.
Have a high ceiling. I think it's a combination of things, and I think Keith's answer to this merits inclusion as well.
Oh, I hope he's not better than mine.
I'll let you judge, actually, because you seem like a stand-up guy. What about the pillars? So if it's a massive arch, you got no pillars.
No, I don't know too much about it, but I assume that's probably because of the steel beams at the top of them holding them together.
Yeah.
But actually, that's a really good point. I don't know.
No pillars at all. So the last thing you want in a railway station is pillars.
Yeah, very true.
I mean, you've got to have a lot.
You've got
to have a lot of sleepers, Dan, but you don't want any pillars. Boom, boom, boom! Get in! What a show! What a day! Have a round of applause. Qualifications?
A modest train geek, and lovely to speak to you as well.
No, likewise. You must, next time you're in London, you must come to West Ealing and have a look at that battery train there. It's very exciting.
I will do. Thank you.
Round of applause. I'll share it with Dan. There we go. Lovely stuff. Has Ash, just check that Ash has not got a board game, will you? I think he hasn't, so we can give it to him. He deserves a board game. He's been holding the show together for the last 6 months, almost single-handedly, while I phone it in. I think that's it for today, and what a show it has been. If you missed any of it, you can listen back on Catch Up on Global Player, or indeed on the LBC app, where you can find a whole range of news, views and opinions. You can listen to a range of podcasts, including James O'Brien Daily, the best bits from my show every day, and Full Disclosure, the long form, the hour-long interview. I'm going to stop saying long form. Makes me sound pompous. Pompouseur. Is that a word?
More pompous.
More pompous.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks a bunch. Download the official LBC app for free from your app store now. Coming up at 4 on LBC, it's Tom. So you're all right there, she?
Absolutely fine.
Shall I carry on?
I said that rather too readily, didn't I? Just a bit more pompous than normal.
Yeah,
James,
thank you very much. But now it's time for Sheila Fogarty.
Thank you very much indeed.
James O'Brien on LBC.